there folks, welcome to RRTV's live coverage of the, let's stop that for a sec. Okay, here we go folks. Hang on. It's out of control. Alright, we're back on air now. Welcome to the Australian Online Supercar Championships. We're here in Brands Hatch for round 9 and it's a 60-60 sprint race. It's going to be on tonight, I tell you folks, but before we get into it, let's have a look at your commentary team. It's myself and Daniel Leet tonight. Welcome Daniel. Ready for an exciting night?
Yeah, good evening viewers, good evening Bernie. In for a great night tonight. It's a little bullring circuit here at Brands Hatch, so I think we've got 53 cars out on circuit at the moment, so we're in for a pretty exciting race, and I think a bit of carnage as well.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be carnage, and it's 16 laps I think the race is, but we'll have a look now at the slides and we'll go through the night's info. And we can go from there, I think. So let's have a look at this, Daniel, and break it down for the viewers. Basically, it's a 60-60 race, 2x16 laps. So I guess what the viewers are going to pretty much see, we've got qualifying up now. We're then going to go into a 16-lap race. Then after that, new server, new qualifying, reset, 16 laps. Is that how you understand this?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a nice little change in format from what the guys are traditionally used to with the longer endurance races, or especially the 150k. So probably the big thing to note for this one, there will be no pit stops required, and there won't be a safety car. It'll all be post-race penalty reviews, I believe, for that situation.
Yeah, otherwise we wouldn't get too far, I don't think, with the amount of carnage we saw in qualifying. They were actually, as you commented before we went on air, they're actually colliding in pit lane, trying to get out. So it's going to be a big night for them. As far as incident limits go, 15 incidents per race. Sounds like a lot, but, that's on average 0.8 of an incident per lap.
Yeah, and incidents here are going to be very tricky. Off-tracks are probably another thing that the guys will want to pay particular attention to. And for this circuit, as a lot of the guys know who drive it, probably your critical spots where you potentially run off are turn 1, which is down through Paddock Hill Bend. Another one that's probably another mention would be Westfield Bend, which is just after you get around the back straight section there. And as you come through Sheens and Stirling, those two corners there are very tricky. So the overtakes will be hard to watch, and the guys are going to have to be precise, but like you say, incidents being so low, you can't really afford the contact between the cars in front of you either.
Well, exactly right. So it's going to be, I think the feeling I've got, this will be a round that people will talk about for some time, but let's hope it's for the great racing we're about to see, that's for sure. But let's also now look at our points system here, and we can see Marlon McMullen's actually leading at the moment on 1,265 points. He's actually 140 ahead of Dane Warren for All-Star Motorsports.
Yeah, Marlon's been doing a great job. Nice consistent racing throughout the series, and that's what you need to sort of get up in front. We know Dane is quick in this series. He's proved it in many races before, where he can get out and get a win, but you have a couple of bad races, and like you see, you drop down a little bit further. Another guy probably I'd be keeping a good eye on is Brian Borg. He generally turns up to these events, has a good showing. Can you have a little bit of a scrappy race here and there, which not always out of his control, but sitting pretty comfortable in third, only 340 points off the lead of this one as well. And I guess, traditionally you can't take your eyes off the likes of Ian Ford and ERT. I mean, they turn up week in, week out and put in a good performance as well, don't they?
Yeah, they certainly do, and they're sitting in 5th at the moment. I'm actually surprised they're not higher up, but I guess this is the non-endurance or sprint race championship and not the team championship, so that could explain the difference there. But yeah, we've got some big contenders in the top 5, that's for sure. We saw Matt Stratford last night in the truck series. He came pretty much from dead last in that series up to around about 6th or 7th, I think it was. It was an incredible drive by him. Of course, different series, but it does highlight the talent that bloke has. And of course, what they're really all playing for is the big prize, isn't it? And that's the the F1 GT Formula 1 GT simulator from Pagnian Imports. They're donating this prize of $699. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who gets that, because, of course, the winner of the series does not necessarily get the prize.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, awesome to see the likes of Pagnium and Excel Racing getting up and putting up an awesome prize. But like you say, you don't have to finish first. It's all about clean, consistent driving. And the drivers here can earn a few different points, a little bit different to just finishing positions, you know. We get a vote for driver of the day. Drivers can also earn additional points, lowest incident counts. So it's definitely all to play for there as well. But they've got also the ability, I believe, to lose some points. So no, it's a great addition to the series, and something that everyone out here is working to try and get a hold of at the end of the year.
Yeah, it definitely is. And what happens, folks, is they get all these entries, and then they get so many entries each put in based on the different, drive of the day and the different things there. That all then gets shipped down to Pagnian Imports, and they will draw that prize out pretty much between the 2nd and the 5th. What do we got? 5 drivers selected from all the entries, and then those drivers have to submit why they want the prize by the looks of it. After that, Pagnian will pick that eventual winner, and we'll announce it at the final round on the 15th of December, just before Christmas.
Yeah, it's a great present to have sitting under the tree come Christmas time, but I don't think it's going to be too hard for some of these guys to put their reason why they want a new sim. Maybe a new bed when the missus kicks them out, because that's where they stay all night. But it looks like a pretty comfortable session, and the guys going forward, once whoever does end up with it, is going to be in for a nice treat.
Yeah, they certainly are, and we're actually going to go to a hot lap with Nick Hausler, but we've only got 4 minutes of qualifying left here, so we're going to leave that for the mid-race break, and he can talk you around that, I think. But looking at our quali at the moment, we've got Jordan Ross sitting, let's get this up and make sure I got it right, sitting on provisional pole, 124.918. Is that right? Yeah, Marlon McMullen second on a 125.128. Then we've got Luke Harvey in third, and Riley Blythe fourth, Jason Bentz. That rounds out our top 5.
Yeah, not a bad spread of time between these guys. We're only looking at a touch over 2 tenths separating first to fifth. So, these tight, compact circuits really do breed some really close racing, and I think the hardest thing now that these guys are trying to do is find every little tenth and fraction of a second they can to jump that little bit of spot. So going to have to be very critical where they sort of come out, where they look for a little bit of a gap in traffic to do so. But take nothing away from Jordan up the front. They're doing a good job with what he's got available.
Yeah, he's doing an excellent job. We can see Marlon McMullen now out there on another flying lap, and the interesting thing about all this really is getting that open track so they don't actually get balked. You can see the drivers are trying to stay off the line when they're not on a hot lap, and I think that's critical for everyone to get a fair shot here at qualifying tonight.
Yeah, definitely, and not only that, they need to keep within the track bounds. You take a little bit of a detour, you get a 1x, there goes your lap. So there's got to be a little bit of self-control on the driver's part, but also they've got to manage that with the aggression to get those laps in.
Yeah, exactly right. With 2 minutes to go, we'll see how Marlon goes now. He's about to start his hot lap, but while we have him on the screen, let's have a look at the race information tonight and the weather. The track's quite short in a way. Well, Marlon's just backed out of it. 3.88 kilometres is the total track length here. I call it short because I always thought Brands Hatch was a lot bigger than what it is until I drove around it. The weather, mostly cloudy at the moment, 30 degrees Celsius or 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So not too hot, but not too cold, just like the porridge.
Yeah, but it's not the worst we've seen. I know we've had a couple of events this season where the track's been up 38, 39, and certainly makes the car very slippery when you're pushing it on the edge. But the track conditions now that the guys are into is about sort of where they'd want to be. Yeah, maybe they'd like a little cooler because it'll protect the tyres and give them a bit more grip, but certainly not the worst that we've ever seen.
Oh, exactly right, and we've seen Jason Bentz out here now. He's currently sitting in 5th on his hot lap, and he's in that beautifully presented Greens Tough Dick Johnson livery. I tell you what, that paint job sings to my heart as a Ford fan.
Yeah, well, you'll be getting ready, Obviously, everyone knows we've got Bathurst coming up next weekend, and that's one of the iconic cars that used to tour around the mountain, isn't it? I'd like to see a few guys, obviously, in the Nissan livery, but, it's great to see the guys are still taking the time putting these liveries into iRacing itself and then being able to drive them as well.
Yeah, exactly right. And of course, the Australian iRacing community had their big race of the Bathurst 1000 last Sunday, and that was broadcast by V8s online. So that would have been the biggest day in the Australian-New Zealand community calendar, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's I think they had 40, 45, 50 cars turned up to race for that one. Like I say, doing a full 1,000k race on the sim's a long day, and it was great to see them be able to put that on, and for the guys to participate on, I'm sure they enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, they would have. It's living the dream, and it's next best thing to actually driving there in real life is being able to do it in the sim. And it sounds like anyone can just jump in and do it, but I tell you what, if you wanted to race in the Bathurst 1000 last weekend, you couldn't just rock up, could you? Because the field was, from what I understand, extremely competitive, and I'm sure there was a few people sitting on the sidelines wishing they could have got a drive.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the way a lot of this is now. You can't just, like you say, turn up and run. It's you got to put in the seat time. You got to work on the setup. So it's almost as demanding as what you'd see in real life for the guys that do it, as far as that side of aspect is concerned. And for the enjoyment side, I mean, you don't have to be professional to enjoy it. You just got to love doing it.
Exactly right, and put in that hard work. And of course, then for something of that level, you then got to be. Your setup's got to be right. You've got to be in the right team with the right backing to do it. And I'm not saying no one can do it. Everyone can do it, but they just have to be absolutely committed to it. And I reckon, and look at the big picture.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly it. So, looks like we've got qualifying coming to an end here as well. So, it might be worth just having a quick recap of the standing position so far. And it looks like Luke Harvey's actually managed to jump Jordan Ross here towards the end of the session and taken pole position on a 124.844. So, great job from Luke Harvey there. Jordan Ross still in second position on a 125.1, followed by Marlon McMullen just behind him. Riley Blythe is starting out of 4. Jason Bentz will be out of 5th tonight. We've got Michael Healy in 6th, Kane Kugamiya in 7th, Darren Nikiga in 8th, Daniel Benefield in 9th, and Thomas Hinz in 10th. So pretty good spread of guys.
Certainly is, and we might as well go through the rest of the field here because we've got 53 to go through. Basically, out of 11th tonight will be Brodie Whitmore, then Craig Jones will start out of 12th, 13th, Daniel Williams, and 14th, Matt Morris. Thomas McMillan, he's going to start out of 15th tonight with Brady Mayers out of 16th. Out of 17th, Peter Sattler, and then Brian Borg is in 18th. 19th tonight, Jamie McKnight, followed by Kai Sloggett in 20th. Gene Fitters 21st, 22nd, Jacob Knight, then Henry King 23rd, 24th, Braden Bateman.
25th tonight we've got Thomas Curran, Nathan Tregarthen in 26th, followed by Adam Wyburton in 27th. Christopher Kesey is in 28th tonight, followed by Kyle Stokes and Jamie Scott in 30th. Paul Preston will be starting out of 31st tonight, followed by Jaden Borg and Matthew Clowett in 33rd. Daniel Kidman will be out of 34th tonight, followed by Mitchell Bales and Zach Raditz.
Yeah, out of 35th will be... Oh, you just said those two. Let's go to the next one. Not with it tonight. David Miller out of 37th, 38th, Stephen Varga. Mark Newton will start out of 39th. 40th will be Matt Lebiadovan. Then we've got Jonathan Ben in 41st. 42nd is Paul Tajavara. Out of 43rd will be Josh Morgan. Then we have Tony Gaffer, followed by Simon Mazzomo in 45th. 46th, Troy Allen. Matt Torkins in 47th. 48th is Andrew Johnston.
In 46, and these are the guys that didn't set times tonight, we had Daniel Trim, followed by Sean Thompson, Scott Temple, Peter Derrick, Wayne Taylor, Brad Hooligan, Paul Ciocci, Ian Ford, and Matthew Goodwin. And I think the guys are just about ready to get underway here.
They certainly are, and it was Brad Houlihan. I think you said Hooligan, but I'd love to have a surname Hooligan. I reckon it'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely it would be.
And have a look at this field, folks. So they go all the way back to around the first corner, and they're still lining up. So let's jump back to the front though. We've got Marlon McMullen sitting there. We've got Luke Harvey though. He will be from pole position, and we're away here for the first one. 16 laps remaining here, folks. Brands Hatch, hold on to your hats as we come into turn one. We have Luke Harvey, and already 2 wide through turn one.
Yeah, good start. Looks like guys got through reasonably. I think a couple of guys are off on the dirt through turn one, but generally pretty good speaking.
Yeah, one of the Momo cars is off on the outside there, and that's normally where they concertina, isn't it? Into that hairpin, and you can just see the field still stringing through down there at the moment. But let's jump up to the pointy side, because we've got Riley Blythe leading Luke Harvey is leading as we see the train coming down. Jordan Ross second, Marlon McMullen third, Riley Blythe fourth, fifth is Jason Bentz.
Yeah, the guys look like they're now starting to settle in. A lot of single file racing. I think the guys at the back here are still seeing 2 and 3 wide as they're trying to sort themselves out. But Luke Harvey got a great jump, was able to control the lead on the start of this race.
Yeah, certainly did, and we're seeing them all still come through the field. Quite a lot of battered cars down there. But up front, who's that spinning? One of the Synergy Sim cars, and that went into Jason Bentz.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out who that was. I didn't catch it, but I think, like you mentioned, it was one of the Synergy guys there.
Yeah, and Jason Bentz did go around there, folks, so we'll get back to it as soon as we can. But Christopher Kessie also in the pits at the moment. But lap 1 down, we have Luke Harvey leading Marlon McMullen, starting to settle down in the front here. Riley Blythe trying to close in the gap. Daniel Benefield, great drive by Daniel, and he's in fourth, and then Craig Jones rounds out your top 5.
Yeah, and it's a great jump from Craig Jones. He's come up from 12th on the grid to be in 5th, so great jump from him. He's got Thomas Hinds right up behind him and starting to apply the pressure, and just behind that we've got Daniel Williams played into this one as well.
Yeah, so Duran Nakora also in 8th position at the moment for the All-Star team, and we'll see what he can do. It looks like Daniel Williams might be his teammate just ahead of him. I'd say he is, just in different livery.
Yeah, generally I think we've seen these guys running in the endurance together, and they do go pretty quick. They've got a good looking set of cars there, and they're going to want to move their way forward. We know they're quick drivers, and now they've got to work for those gaps and get the car up there.
Yeah, they certainly do, and we're riding now on the nose cam here with Daniel Williams, and you can just see how close he's getting to the edge. That's Hinsley's car, the edge, that's who sponsors it, so he's right on the edge, you could say.
Yeah, it sure is, but what it's starting to help do is take a little bit of pressure off Craig Jones just in front, so Craig will want this little battle here to continue on so he can sort of eke that little bit of time difference up.
Yeah, and he's trying to bridge that gap, isn't he? And what he wants to do, as you said, is drop those 3 behind him, which he's doing now. That's Thomas Hinds under pressure at the moment, as we saw Daniel Williams, Duran Nakora, and there's cars in trouble on the track, folks. Quite a few, but the ones we have seen at the moment, Matt Torkins has had to be towed back to the pits. Christopher Kessie, Thomas McMillan, it looks like Daniel Trim, Simon Mazzomo, Jaden Borg, all have had to be towed to the pits, and we're only on lap 2 here.
Yeah, quite a few guys that are out of sequence here, or major issues. I did see just briefly Henry King was running in 14th, had a good little battle there going with Brendan Bateman, and just sort of ran a little wide through turn 1 up on the dirt, and he's dropped well back down the order here. He's down in 18th, so lost 4 spots from that little issue.
Yeah, and there we go, we're riding with Jacob Knight there, and he's just turned around. Who was that? That was right in front of him.
Yeah, that was Matt Morris there. So Matt's been able to recover, but lost a gaggle of spots there as a result of that. And I'm sure the race stewards will have a look at and investigate after the race.
Yeah, we were actually on driving with him in the cockpit view there, and he tried to go up the inside, and basically he had an overlap, but probably not enough of an overlap, and turned the other driver around. If you're wondering, folks, why we're not showing you replays, it's because I'm basically struggling trying to keep up with all this.
Yeah, that's something we generally tend to find. The minute you get a lot of, whoa, there's a massive crash. Who was that? That was Pete Sattler involved in that, and there was a car, who's in the 3M, Jacob Knight, hard into the fence and put that thing up and over, I believe.
Yeah, he did. We'll jump back to that replay and have a look at it, because that was huge, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest ones tonight so far, and I don't think there was any malice in doing that. He just caught the inside and around she went, and yeah, that's one of the biggest issues we're going to find tonight, especially with this tight pack racing, is making sure you can leave enough room to let that car in front get it back in line.
Yeah, he was trying to get on the inside of Pete Sattler there, and it almost was like he turned across the nose of Pete, and yeah, that's a good way to launch the new title Forza anyway.
Yeah, it definitely is, and I think Pete's still going underway. Doesn't seem to have got too much damage out of that. He's still in 17th at the moment, just coming up on the back of Henry King there as well, so Pete's still trying to work his way forward. We'll battle here with, who's that, Brendan Bateman and Kai Sloggett. That's for 14th and 13th. There's about a tenth of a second in for those two there, so it doesn't matter where you look, there's battles up and down this field at the moment.
There certainly are. We can see Jason Bentz now 17th position on that recovery drive. He was up there in about 5th until he got turned around lap 1, but fortunately his car's escaped too much damage, or none at all really, and already he's on the march back, and I guess in 12 laps he's going to have to be pretty quick, isn't he, and not get held up as he's now trying to crack on to Pete Sattler. Well, get past him, not crack onto him.
Yeah, definitely, and the guys are going to look for every little advantage they can, whether they maybe brake a little earlier and accelerate out with a little more traction, or run it real hard into those corners and just try and get the nose in and force the guy in front out. But Pete's pretty well awake to most of those tricks, so I think we'll see him with the elbows out here for the next few laps while they sort of sort this position out. But these two have raced against each other a lot, and they know sort of where they're strong, where they're a bit weaker as well.
Yeah, and coming through Sheen Curve here, I reckon Sheen Curve is one of the trickiest parts of this track. It's blind, pretty much, and I know when I drive here, it's pretty much muscle memory knowing when to turn in to hit that apex, because you can't actually see it.
Yeah, definitely, and that's something the guys will have done through practice. Obviously, we get 2 hours before the start of the qualifying session, so as many laps as they can put in, get comfy with that turn-in point, will definitely pay dividends in the back end of this race.
Yeah, definitely will. And meanwhile, up front, folks, the battle is still on here between Luke Harvey, Marlon McMullen and Riley Blythe. They've dropped everyone else, but Luke and Marlon are now trying to drop Riley. But yeah, there's a good battle for the lead at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely is. And Riley's actually slowly making his way up onto these guys, I think. With Luke and Marlon battling what they're doing, it's actually slowing him down a little bit and forcing him back in towards Riley. But Luke's kind of in the comfy spot here. He can pick where he wants. He's got no one in front of him, and he's just got to wait for these guys to try and make their way past. But that battle a little further back we had with Thomas Hinz and Daniel Williams, which was for 6th and 7th, is still going pretty strong. Looks like Duran Nakura is actually falling off a little bit from Daniel Williams, but the two in front are definitely going hammer and tongs still.
Yeah, they certainly are, and that's Brodie Whitmore there, as you said, Duran. Then we've got Brian Borg in the Laser Racing entry behind him. Quite a big gap though, and then Gene Fittis is trying to catch him down. Jamie McKnight at the moment sitting in 12th. I think he qualified in about 16th position, so he's made good. Yes, he has. He's up 7 positions from where he started, 19th up to 12th.
Yeah, and there's been some really good moves so far up the field. I think just in front of him we've got Gene Fittis. He's up 10 spots since the start of the race. So for the guys that are playing it smart and looking at where they can go, you can definitely make huge gains on this grid.
You certainly can. It's a matter of driving smart tonight and having a bit of luck on your side to avoid that first couple of laps carnage. But things are settled down now, and of course at the end of this we'll try and go back and catch some of that action in our replays. And I'd say there's going to be quite a bit, but we can see now Jason Bence, he's up to 15th. He's now closing up on Kai Sloggett and trying to make another position up.
Yes, we didn't see that pass, but Jason's managed to get himself up past Pete Sattler there. So good that there's no major issues from those two, so they'll just knuckle down and keep moving. But actually, we missed it as well. He got past Henry King, so I don't know where that happened. Oh, who was that? Kai Sloggett's had a big one into the fence.
Yeah, we can see him parked there. Let's jump back to the replay and see if we can pick this up. So it looks like he's done it all by himself here, Daniel.
Yeah, maybe a little too eager getting on the gas there to get back underway, and just got a bit of a tank slapper and couldn't pull it back in, so that's going to be very disappointing for Kai. He was doing really good tonight.
Yeah, heavily into the tyre barrier there, and yeah, as you said, he was doing a really good job out there, but that car's been towed back to the pits, and another one is tallied up to the victim list of Brands Hatch tonight.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's disappointing to see. Obviously the guys don't have the time with the fast repair to sort of have these issues wait for a tow and get back underway, so Kai's going to have to regroup here, get ready for race 2 and get settled down again and to go again. Back up the front, we've still got Luke Harvey, starting to edge away a little bit now from Marlon McMullen just behind him, but Marlon's got his mirrors full of Riley Blythe behind him here.
Yeah, he literally did, because we're riding with Riley at the moment, and he tagged Marlon as Marlon just lifted a bit coming through Sheen Curve there.
Yeah, so good racing here. I think Riley will be looking maybe to get a run up through turn 1. If he can't do it there, it'll definitely be down the back straight where he can get a nice bit of draft, put it up the inside, but we'll have to see how this one plays out for the rest of the lap.
Yeah, he's just tucked in here through turn 1 up to the hairpin now, and we'll stay with this. He's having a look on the inside, tucks it back in, shows the nose. Marlon got a bit sideways here. It's on now.
Yeah, it didn't look like Marlon was able to hit the brake marks that he wanted, but yeah, he's just sort of pulled back a little bit and let Riley through on that one.
Yeah, and Riley around the outside there, up to second. That'll be interesting to see what these two can do, because of course while they're fighting and squabbling here, Luke Harvey's rubbing his hands together and he's sprinting for the line.
Yeah, definitely, and Luke's doing a great job up in front. The laps are nice and consistent for him, which is what he needs to do. While these two battle, he can just sort of extend that lead, and it's just a bit here under a second from first to second at the moment, so doing a really good job doing what he needs to do, and hopefully we'll see him in the top step at the end of this race.
Yeah, definitely, and another guy that's doing a great job is Daniel Benefield here in fourth position. He's basically joined Middle Finger Racing. He's left Redback Racing, gone to Middle Finger Racing, and from what I understand speaking to him is he really wants to focus in on V8 Supercar driving, and I'll tell you what, he's doing a great job out there tonight in fourth position and looking really strong.
Yeah, it certainly is. The laps are nice and consistent, about the mid 25 to mid 26 laps at the moment, but he's in the middle of no man's land. He's got no one in front, no one behind, so he can just sort of concentrate on getting it right, get this thing home and grab those points for the rest of the season.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I reckon being in the middle of no man's land around here might be a blessing in disguise. But we can see now Daniel Williams. He's starting on the battle on the back of Brodie Whitmore here, and this is a good little battle going on for 7th and 8th.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago we actually saw Daniel on the back of Thomas Hinzier, so Brodie's doing well, working his way up this field. He started in 11th, currently sitting in 6th, I believe it is, 7th, so doing a good job, and he's going to have to be careful. He's got a hard charger and Daniel sitting behind him, but putting the car exactly where he needs to right now.
Yeah, and a bit of correction here, folks. Daniel Benefield actually joined Performance Sim Sport, not Middle Finger Racing.
Fantastic. It's good to see the guys in the chat. Thanks for turning in, viewing, and hope the racing's up to standard for you guys as well tonight.
Yeah, these sprint races aren't only tough on the drivers, of course, and the teams, but they're also very tough on us, aren't they? Trying to be able to commentate at the pace these races unfold.
Yeah, definitely. It's hard to sort of find where to look. There's tons of great battles going on, so take your pick. You can pretty much find anything going on in this field, and most of the battles are 2, 3, 4 car little trains here. So like we mentioned, we had the one with Thomas Hinz, Brodie Whitmore, Daniel Williams and Duran. That's about 2 seconds between those 4 cars. We've got a really good battle here with Jason Bentz, Brendan Bateman and Pete Sattler, and that's for 13th, 11th through 13th, sorry. So that's really tight little fight going on as well.
Yeah, well, Jason's up to 12th now, and in another 7 positions he'll be back to where he started. He's now having a crack at Braden Bateman there. Good to see. He had a look on the inside. He's got a good run, but of course as he goes up through the field it's going to be tougher for him, but let's see if he can make this pass. He's just tucking in. He's being pretty cautious, which I think is a good move. Here he goes, looking on the overlap, tucks back in, coming up through Dingledell now. I actually thought it was Dingle Bell, but it's Dingledell, and then into Sheen Curve.
Yeah, he's really working hard to sort of find that spot, but ran it a little hot there, and it's allowed Pete Sattler just to get back on terms with him again. So he's going to need to maybe settle down just a touch and look where he's going. But one thing we probably should have a quick look off here, I'm just scrolling through the incident points just to sort of see where people are, and one guy that's going to be hand in mouth at the moment is Matt Morris, and Matt's sitting in 33rd, but he's on 14 incident points so far, so very close to potential disqualification if he gets over that 15 mark.
Yeah, well, it's only going to take a couple more off tracks, and you've got 5 laps remaining, and we can see now Jason Bentz up to 12th position. Just having a look further through the field here. One of the viewers wanted to know if Forzan El Nabi was running tonight. No, he's not, as far as I can tell. I can't see him out there. What about you, Daniel? No,
Forzan's not on the timing screens tonight. We didn't see him in qualifying, and he hasn't turned up for this one, so potentially could be in for race 2. We don't know, but yeah, definitely not in the first race so far.
You can see once again this battle between Braden Bateman and Jason Bentz continues, and tell you what, Jason's working hard for this position, and Braden's doing an awesome job and hanging on to that 11th position.
Yeah, Pete's probably sitting back here licking his lips, hoping that if these two make a bit of a contact and something happens, he's got a chance to get past 2 spots here. So I think Pete will be playing the smart game, wait for them to make the issue and then jump past them.
Yeah, I'd say you're dead right there. And looking at the top 10 as they stand at the moment, folks, with Luke Harvey, he's pulled a gap now out to 1.38 seconds over Riley Blythe, who in turns pulled a gap of 1.6 or 1.0 seconds over Marlon McMullen. Then there's contact. It's Jason Bentz into the wall. Braden Bateman, where's he? He's got away with it, I think.
Yeah, that one looks like it started through turn 1. Jason got a great run, using up all the curb, and looks like he's just either locked the brake or just caught the rear bumper there, and it's actually spun both of them out. I don't think... Yeah, Braden was able to get going, didn't hit any cars or any wall or anything, but Jason's definitely come off the worst out of that one.
Yeah, and Jason was trying to change and go on the inside there, and he's just run into the back of Braden. As you said, both of them went around, but Jason has a hard hit in the front there, and yeah, that's all that hard work down the drain, pretty much.
Yeah, and as we were saying, you know, the winner out of that one was Pete. He was able to pick up 2 spots out of that exchange, and lucky, obviously the cars were able to move out of the way as they spun, and he was able to get himself through, but smart driving by Pete just to stay back and let that one unfold.
We just saw Nathan Tregarthen there in the Pagnian-sponsored Supercar there go off track. He's in a hold, and who's that behind them? The +7, that's Sean Thompson going around, gathers it up, but Sean's had an awesome drive. If you have a look at this, 23rd position, he's up 27 positions from where he started, and that is in a space of 13 laps.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Sean actually started out of pits on this one, and just up in front of them, we've still got a good little battle here with Kyle Stokes and Nathan Tregarthen, and those two are swapping positions every chance they get at the moment.
Oh, and they nearly come together again, and they're battling very, very hard indeed. And Nathan's having a heck of a drive out there. He went off track, as we called it. He nearly went off track again, fighting Kyle here, so he's driving hard. And of course, Kyle looks like he's sponsored tonight. Well, he's promoting the Forza 7 brand on his car, which of course, if you paid the big bucks, you can get it today, 4 days early, and then I think it goes for the normal people in the 2nd of October. I think 4 days we can access it.
Yeah, right. I've never really got into the Forza stuff other than maybe a bit of drifting and that on the PlayStation, but no, look, they're doing a good job with that title. I think they've got a few more things than what iRacing does as far as weather and track change goes, but yeah, certainly different feel to what these guys will be experiencing with a bit more simulation-based physics that iRacing has.
Oh yeah, it's we're just having a look at Jason Bence now. He had a bit of a lazy spin coming off Sheen Curve, and around he goes again, so his night is not a night he'll want to remember. And I tell you what, he's driving that Green's Tough livery, and it's a real shame to see it all banged up like that.
Yeah, definitely, and it is not worth him coming in trying to use a fast repair. He's got to get to the end, and like I say, I think we're 2 laps from the end here, so he'll just want to make every position he can and gain every little bit of points.
Yeah, exactly, but meanwhile Luke Harvey's up here taking the lead. He's pretty much led start to finish here, and Riley Blythe's trying to chase him down, but he hasn't had the pace yet. Marlon McMullen also dropping off the pace now. Where else is there a bit of a battle going on? Down in Matt Lebeidovin and Jason Bence, but Matt's defending from James Scott, and then we've got David Miller behind him in a very second-hand looking Redback Racing entry. I think, yes, it is Redback Racing. I had to look twice because he's basically turning this into an open wheeler on the front, and it's almost like a rat rod.
It's getting close to. I mean, once they start losing the fenders, there's not much more other than the bonnet and maybe the boot to go off them. But doing a good job in turning into that. But I'm just keeping an eye here on Matt Lebeidovin. He's doing a great little job, just sort of holding off James Scott behind him, and sort of allowing David Miller to close back up on this one as well. So Matt will be pretty happy. He started out where did he start? 40th tonight. Currently up in 25th. So good little gain off the start there as well.
It certainly is, and we're down to the last lap now, and I tell you what, when this race is over, folks, don't go away, because we'll be changing service, and then it all happens again for race 2 here. But the pit crew, of course, I feel sorry for them, because they're going to have to get these cars ship-shape pretty quickly and back out on track.
Yeah, very quick turnaround, so the guys will come out of this one, jump into a qualifying session, and get ready to start race 2, and they might have picked up maybe a potential little change they could use for the next race.
Yeah, that's right. And the other thing they're going to have to keep an eye on is the weather, because between race 1 and 2, of course, the weather may be different, and that can affect their setup. So I think they're pretty much going to go in with what they've got, probably, as you said, make tweaks where they're not happy, and then see what they've got during the warm-up and qualifying. Yeah,
definitely. And looks like we've got first of our winners come over the line here, so we should start going through this field now, and looks like Luke Harvey took the win, let it start to finish, did a great job there. Riley Blythe home in second, followed by Marlon McMullen. Daniel Benefield out of fourth. Craig Jones come home fifth, followed by Thomas Hinds, Daniel Williams. Brody Whitmore had a good little battle there with Duran Nakura there at a ninth. Gene Fittis home in 10th, followed by Henry Key and Pete Sutherland in 12th.
Yeah, and they're still coming across the line. Sorry about that, folks. I totally balls that one up. But let's have a look from 13th back. We've got Jordan Ross home in 13th, up down 11 positions. Braden Bateman 14th, 15th Brian Borg. Jamie McKnight, he comes home in 16th. Tom Curran is 17th. 18th Adam Wyborn, followed by David Kinmond. Then Kyle Stokes in 20th. Nathan Tregarthen in 21st. Sean Thompson up 28 positions to finish 22nd. He has to be the biggest mover of this race. Stephen Varga 23rd. Rounding out your top 24 is Jason Bentz.
Yeah, we had Matt Lapoitavin home in 25th tonight, followed by Jaden Borg. James Scott come home in 27th, followed by David Miller. Paul Tajfara was home in 29th, followed by Simon Mazzomo and Jonathan Byrne. Tony Gaffer out in 32nd, followed by Tony Allen. Mitchell Bales was home in 34th, and Josh Morgan home in 35th. And from there we get into our lap down contenders, which started with Matt Torkins, first of the one lap down contenders, so he was in 36th, followed by Andrew Jones, Paul Preston and Christopher Kesey. Matt Morris came home 2 laps down in 40th, followed by Thomas McMullen. Brody Mayers was 4 laps down, and Brody actually got a disqualification, hit that 15 incident limit in the race. Mark Newton come home in 43rd, followed by Jacob Knight and Zach Redditz. And for the big ones that cancelled out early, we had Kai Sloggett, as we saw, he had some issues, followed by Matt Clowett and Mitchell Healy.
Yeah, and Michael Healy there down 42 positions, and then we're pretty much into the non-finishers. Michael didn't even get 1 lap in retirement there, so bit of a shocker there. Looking at the ones that didn't even, I think, take to the grid was Kane Kujamiya, Daniel Trim, Scott Temple, Peter Derrick, Wayne Taylor, Brad Houlihan, Paul Chakouti, Ian Ford and Matthew Godwin. All, well, if they did take to the grid, they did not complete 1 lap.
Yeah, it was. Looks like we had, like I say, a lot of guys that didn't have a start. I've just gone back just to see what happened with Michael Healy, and he was actually the Momo car we saw spinning into turn 2. He got a bit of a tap from behind, and yeah, he had to let the entire field go. He was running up pretty high. He started in 6th tonight, so very disappointing for him. And hopefully, we're going to see him come back for round or sprint race 2, and hopefully, we'll have him get a better result.
Yeah, we're just trying to get back to that. Jamie McKnight also had a issue out there. Oh goodness, what's going on here? Okay, my overlays are all crapping out. But yeah, so quite an action-packed race, that's for sure.
Yeah, it definitely was. And we said at the start of the race that we're going to have these issues with such a small track with a big number of cars. Yeah, everyone wants to fight for that little bit of road, and unfortunately, a few of these guys did have some big issues, and it ruined their races and ruled them out at the finish.
Yeah, we're just having a look at the replay of turn 1 here with Pete Sattler, and he got turned around, and we'll see what's happened here. Quite an aggressive start to the race, that's for sure, but further back we could see him up 4 wide as Pete just runs off.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing with the amount of cars that are doing it. You're going to see them 4 and 3-4 wide definitely, and you just got to pick your line and hope that the guys in front can give you what little bit of room they've got just to allow you to get through.
Yeah, so huge effort there, but of course we're going to wait till the next server comes up. But in the meantime, I think we should go to that lukewarm hot lap. What do you think, Daniel? Yeah,
definitely. It's for the guys who know, the lukewarm lap put on by Nick Heusler. He's the series organiser for AOSC, and it's good to see him. He's not running tonight. He's off with a bit of family time, but still putting in the effort, putting up a great perspective of a driving lap around Brands Hatch tonight.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go across to Nick Heusler and have a look at this while we set the server up.
Well, welcome to Brands Hatch for round 9 of the AOSC. We've got two 16-lap sprints around Brands Hatch tonight. One of my favourite tracks, I've got to admit, as we get going on our warm-up lap. Couple of really important corners, these first 3 corners, which is sure where most of the action is going to be. Once again, it is a lukewarm lap. I don't attest to be a professional, but just hope it gives you a bit of an idea and an understanding of the track while you're out there watching the broadcast, as you can get a perception of the track from a mid to rear pack runner. As we come round the back here, these great set of corners, you can be fairly greedy on the curves here as we come round through Westfield. You come down here, this next corner, which is Sheen Curve, is a great corner. You can take a lot of curve. It's blind turn in, it's a blind braking. If you get it right, it feels great. So we'll see how we go as we come up to Clark Curve to get started on our lap. This again is a tricky corner. Car can get very loose as we start up. As we get into Paddock Hill Bend, you take a really wide entry on here and sort of sweep around and once again use a lot of that runoff. And up here into turn 2, where we will see a lot of diving down the inside, I am sure, here at Druids. And if people stuff it up there, they'll have a crack down here at Graham Hill. All third gear through here, you can run it out fairly wide. And now as we come into Surtees, it's not really an overtaking spot, but you really need to get the exit right, because as you come down the main straight here, really, if you get a bad exit there, you'll be subject to attack up here. It's not really an overtaking corner, but if you get that exit right, you'll be up far enough to command track position. Once again, as we come round through Westfield, we'll see if we can get Sheen right. As I said, blind braking and turn in, and well, sort of stuff that up. Into Stirling. Try to get good drive down here for this short shoot. As then again we come around Clark, which the car can get unsettled on. It's a real prick of a pet entry too. Lucky we don't have to worry too much about that tonight. As we cross the start finish line, and there's a nice little lukewarm lap. Hope you enjoy the telecast tonight. Make sure you stay tuned for those turn 1, 2 and 3, which is where all the action's going to be. And now I'll hand it back to Bernie at the crew at RRTV.
Sorry folks, had the microphone turned off, oh my god. Okay folks, welcome back. As you can see, the server is up and running at the moment and we're just waiting for it to load. But tell you what, Daniel, looking at race 1, it was definitely action packed, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was. And we can say it time and time again, there's no room for these guys to sort of muck around with. They've got to be clean, precise with their moves, get the passes done as clean and precise as they can, and we saw a few issues where maybe they didn't look for the best passing opportunities, or just had that slight bit of contact, and a lot of cars were ruined out of that. Obviously, we saw Jason Bentz have an issue there. He got into the back of Braden Bateman, and that was a spin. Michael Healy had the issue where he got spun lap 1. So these guys just maybe need to settle down a little bit more. I saw a comment from one of the viewers early on. For the amount of cars there was 73 metres of room to play with, which is next to nothing when you consider it.
Yeah, that's nothing at all. It's peak hour and pit street, pretty much, and I'd say you could even say peak hour at pit street when everyone's hyped up on Red Bull or something like that.
Yeah, definitely, and I've just got a bit of a view on Henry King, who's worked out a way to light the tyres up, has just drifted through some of these corners here, so having a good bit of fun while the guys get ready to start a little bit of practice and then make those changes, get ready for qualifying here.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how many cars actually make it for race 2. A lot of damage to those cars, and I'm sure a lot of the teams there will be pushing. Currently we've got 45 that have joined this server, and we'll see if we get any more, but I'd say a few people may have retired licking their wounds tonight.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, like we say, it is a nice short round, but the way the split works, so you do have a bit of a bad race in the start. You've only got 25 minutes max, wait, reset, calm yourself down, get a drink of water, and come back and do it all over again. And you never know, you might have one shock of the first one and have an absolute ball of the next one, and get up there and have race of your life almost.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right, and if you're serious about getting as many points as you can, you would be getting back on the horse and being out there, which is what all the front-end runners are doing anyway. You can see at the moment Thomas McMillan out here, and I apologise, folks, Training Paints is updating once again, so you'll see all the new paint jobs come out very shortly. You can see Adam Wyborn out here at the moment, and he's just done a time of 1:26.648, which puts him second quickest in practice at the moment.
Yeah, but we're starting to see now, guys obviously got to get through their first lap. They've only got a short practice session while everyone gets in here, and the times are starting to get a bit more comfortable. We're seeing Jordan Ross back to the front. He started P2 for race 1, and he's back up the top with a good time, 25.1. So there's definitely the pace still in the circuit, and I think these times are going to start getting a bit more consistent, and come qualifying I think we're going to be in for a pretty good treat, and maybe some similar grid positions to what we saw in the first race.
Yeah, I'd say it'll be very similar, and we can see Jamie McKnight at the moment provisionally fourth in practice, a 1:25.923. He started back in 19th, didn't he? Finished last time we saw around about 11th or 12th.
Yeah, it was a good race for Jim. I think he had a little bit of contact at one point we saw, but no, it did quite well. And now comes the fun part, get yourself ready and go again. So what are your sort of predictions for the race? Do you reckon we're going to see the same guys up towards the front here for this next one?
It really comes down to whether they get a good run in qualification, because of course we've seen before previously on one of these races at Sonoma where I think it was Marlon or his teammate Forzen, they did not get a good qualifying in the second run, and pretty much did not finish in the points. So I think if those drivers can get into the top 5, top 10, I think we're going to see the same result. But if anyone's had a bad qualification in race 1 and they get a good one here, I think it could be a different result.
Yeah, definitely, and like I say, picking that little bit of position on track is going to be crucial, and just having a bit of a look on my screens, which obviously the viewers won't be able to see, and just looking at the car placement so far around this circuit, and pretty much, with the exception of maybe the back section currently, everyone is cramped together on this circuit so far.
Yeah, and they'll all be tripping over each other very shortly once we go into qualifying, and we'll go from there. One of the viewers wanted to know if we've got cartoons. Well, not really. I could draw some if you want, little stick figures, but yeah.
And I think that one might have actually been cautioned. So no cautions in the sprint races tonight. It's a 16-lap dash for the cash, essentially. The guys qualify and run what they can do. Any issues, if there are, will be adjudicated post-race by the race stewards.
I don't know, I reckon cartoons would have been good.
Well, maybe we need someone to put a livery together, the RRTV cartoon car, maybe.
Probably have that Fred Flintstone or something on the front.
Yeah, possibly.
See Craig Jones down here at the moment, 33rd in practice, and not sure how long we've got for practice. I can't actually see any counter on my screen, but we can't be that far out of qualifying tonight.
No, we're only just under half a second before the session splits over to qualifying, and wouldn't worry too much about Craig. He's got pretty good consistency in that car. We saw him, he come home 5th in race 1, so the car's working well. Maybe just needs to find that little bit of track position, maybe nail one or two of those braking markers a little more, and we should see those times definitely increase and maybe get him up inside that top 3.
Yeah, definitely, and Aussie Dave said he reckons that RRTV livery should be Roadrunner, or maybe he wants to see Roadrunner cartoons, let's say. Yeah,
well, that could be very interesting. I don't know whether any of the viewers out here are good with the skin design. Maybe something they could put together, and maybe that could be the commentator car. If one of us gets out of the box, we have to race in that thing.
Yeah, probably you, I'd say. But having a look at them streaming out now of pit lane, and I'll tell you what would you do if you were in this position, Daniel? Would you go out with the whole crowd like this, or would you hang back?
I think you'd be wanting to hang back a little bit, just to sort of see what you can do. Obviously, a lot of the guys now have got great facilities to use, whether it be JRT for lap data or the likes of Z1. They can sort of work out where they're going to come out on the track, and if I was a betting man, I'd be looking at maybe making my way out of pit lane about now, because everyone else has already done the mad dash to get out there, and you could effectively have pretty much clear track for now to get around and set a good time.
And that's going to be key, isn't it? If you're not right up the front, as you can see at the moment, there's cars everywhere. If you are not up the front and you can't get that clean lap, you are not going to qualify well, and your race is pretty much going to be done there. But if you're up the back, as you said, and you get one lap in, that's all you really need, if it's a good one.
Yeah, definitely, and you got to be careful. It's that bit of a balancing act. You can wait to see all the guys get out and maybe look for that clear bit of track, but at the same point you've got to be careful while you're trying to get your tyres up to pressure to go for that hot lap. You've got guys coming up that have already done all that and are going to be a lot quicker than where you are, so you're playing that sort of mental game, watching in front to see what's happening, but you're spending more of your time watching in the rear view to make sure you stay out of their way and let them have a go at it as well.
Yeah, we can see now the guys trying to get those gaps. Brady May is starting his hot lap now, and he's got a couple of car lengths between himself and the Redback racing car ahead of him, and then he's got Henry King 3 car lengths behind, so they are now starting to pace themselves out. You can see Luke Harvey on a flyer here. His team's changed livery, and he's now running the Harvey Bay Ace Tennis livery tonight.
Yeah, and again, like I say, these guys now have got the spot. I like the look of that Luke Harvey car though. It's a good looking design with the tennis club logos on there. I'm not sure who's put that skin together for him, but certainly stands out on the track.
It certainly does, and the guys are coming across the line now. We've had Duran Nakora draw first blood, provisional pole 1:38.84. Yep. Then Daniel Williams second at the moment as he comes through. Kyle Stokes third, fourth, Paul Tajavara, and then Matt Morris rounds out your top 5.
Yeah, and the times are still a little way off what we'd expect to sort of be seeing. The guys at the moment in the 1:30.8s, and we know that we can see these guys down in the low 24s. mid to low 24s, maybe a potential 23, as Dane Warren actually jumps to the top of the tree now on a 124.594. So made the most of that little bit of track and put in a cracking lap.
Yeah, so if we have a look now, we'll bring up our race standings, folks, so you can see Dane Warren, an awesome lap there. First, Luke Harvey second, Marlon McMullen third, Riley Blythe fourth. He's in the pits. Daniel Benefield fifth at the moment, Brody Whitmore, Duran Nakora, Henry King eighth, Brian Borg ninth, and 10th is Daniel Williams. And we'll leave that top 10 leaderboard up there, folks, so you can see as it shuffles around.
Yeah, so we're currently looking at about 1.4 seconds, and it's easy to see, even though this track is as small as we mentioned earlier, what was it, 3.8 Ks, you can have a second and a half spread just in a top 10 shootout. And I think these guys now, if they can make that little bit of room, as just watching here on the map, looks like it's starting to break out a little bit. We might see some of these times bunch up a little more, what we saw in practice of race one.
Yeah, we can see there Henry King just pulling out, going back to the pits for new tyres. We're looking at Brian Borg as he completes his qualifying lap. This is his third lap, and sitting in 10th at the moment. And it's good to see a lot of the guys are giving each other a lot of room here. They're unhindered. Here he comes across the line now, 125.646, and he does not improve.
No, not yet, but he did set a quicker lap time, so that currently is his personal best for this session, which is good to see. I'm just watching a few of the guys still sitting in pits now that Dane Warren's actually he's just jumped up again. I think he may have just gone out of pit lane here, but the times are slowly starting to creep down. That top 5 that we've got is just on 0.6 of a second separating them at the moment.
Yeah, it's really closing up, isn't it, as you were saying a moment ago, and those times are coming down. They're a lot quicker, I think, than the first one, but you can see Brian Borg, he's now starting another flying lap here. He's just drops down to 11th, and the reason for that I'm just trying to work out is that Jordan Ross has... no, it's not. He's in 7th at the moment.
Excuse me, I'm just watching Brian. Got a good bit of driver awareness there from David Miller. Just sort of got out of the way and let Brian continue through on his lap. But Brian's going to want to push. I think we didn't quite see him up inside that top 10 in the last race. But the car placement's really good at the moment. The car looks to be doing everything he wants. Nice drive out of those corners, but maybe not quite as quick as he needs at the moment.
Yeah, we can see Brian now just coming down into the second to last corner, coming up to the next corner, which Nick Hausler said was the P corner of the track.
Yeah, he's very loose with some of the wording. It's good to see in those lukewarm laps some of the driver perception of how you can and can't get around this circuit. Maybe for the likes of yourself and I, we've got to be a little bit more careful what we say, but it's good to see Nick sort of just telling it how it is.
Yeah, and of course that lukewarm lap's brought to you by Pagnin Imports and Next Level Racing. So it's always great to have that sponsor on board and putting together that awesome prize to one of the lucky drivers here for that F1 GT sim racing rig worth $699. And if you're looking for a good sim gear, definitely go to pagninimports.com.au and check them out.
Yeah, definitely, and they do everything from rigs to wheels, pedals, butt shakers for all the guys that want to get into a bit of sim vibe potentially. So a bit of a one-stop shop to get everything you need to sort of get yourself set up and running.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I ordered a few years ago now a butt kicker, and they sent it to me in the box, and all along the side it just had butt kicker, and it had a picture of a seat with this thing sticking out. And I tell you what, the mailman, he cracked up big time, and the more I tried to explain what it did, the worse it got.
Yeah, for the uninitiated, they'd be thinking butt kicker's your wife when you've done something wrong. Out comes the big boot, but certainly adds a new element for what these guys can experience on the circuit. But yeah, for the uninitiated, I imagine there'd be a lot of laughs.
Yeah, it was even worse when I said no. What it does is you put it on your seat, and then when you're doing the games, it vibrates. Yeah, we stopped at that point and just went on. But yeah, the Sim Vibe these days, I've not experienced it, but you can actually get a different, like a bass type speaker on each corner of your rig, plus under your seat, to simulate the vibrations from each of the corner of the car as it goes over the ripple strips and bumps and things like that.
Yes, it's a good element, a bit of fun to play with, a bit of a pain in the butt setting it up, no pun intended, but no, it does add a really nice little element, a bit different from what maybe some of the guys with a bit more lavish setups have with motion, but definitely very, very fun.
I'll tell you what, I don't know how anyone can afford motion. I was looking the other day at motion simulators. They started at about $16,000 upwards, and I don't think that was for anything too special.
No, I think for a lot of that, you've kind of got to look at the DIY component and go yourself. It's certainly a lot cheaper if you can do it that way. Maybe you've got a mate who can do a bit of fabrication work for you, but yeah, you can be hard for a few grand if you're planning to do it yourself.
Yeah, so it's definitely something for people to look at if that's what they want. And at the moment, Marlon McMullen sitting third. I'm just having a look at the top 10. It's pretty much looking the same as it looked in race 1 here. Daniel Bannerfield 6th. I'm just looking, Jordan Ross is in there, Thomas McMillan, Brodie Whitmore. I don't think we've had any surprises up there as yet.
No, not really, not for qualifying as far as we're sort of seeing. It's the usual suspects up there. Maybe I'm looking a little further down at the likes of Craig Jones here. Obviously we saw him 5th in the last race, a little bit slower, sitting in 19th at the moment, and we know he got a good start, was able to jump quite a few spots, so potentially looking to do the same. But this top 10 that we're seeing at the moment is pretty consistent and looks to be all the usual runners up there.
Yeah, and I'm looking for Pete Sattler. He's down in 21st at the moment, and he's still out there on a warm-up. His car's extremely loose. Don't know if he meant to do that or not, but it is. And yeah, so let's have a look at the weather while we're looking at this qualifying and just see if things have changed out there. No, they haven't really. Same as it was, mostly cloudy, 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So the setups they had from race 1 should stick for race 2.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you want to get right into it, obviously the guys will get a bit of a chance to look at some of the data between the races, potentially make a quick tyre change as we see Pete got very loose coming through the final corner there. Maybe make a quick tyre change and get a little more drive somewhere. Yeah,
so Pete's back in the pits and he's not having much luck at all. Sean Thompson, I would have liked to see him in the top 10 because he was the biggest mover and shaker, wasn't he, in race 1, up 28 positions. He's actually qualified a lot better this time, 26th, so we'll see what he can do. He's on his flyer now, and it looks like he hasn't been impeded by traffic at this stage.
No, not at all, and I'm not sure whether I've got the right livery on the car, but the black livery that he's running at the moment looks very nice on that car.
Oh yeah, it looks beautiful, that Plus Fitness livery. Of course, he's sponsored by Kiani Race Centre, and I've never gone and tried one of the race centres, but when I get to Sydney, I'm definitely going to go up there and have a look around because I've heard it's pretty good to go and have a visit.
Yeah, definitely. Just tell them Sean sent you. I'm sure they'll look after you for that. But it is a different feel. I've used something similar up here in Brisbane, and it is a different feel. It's not maybe not quite as accurate as you'd like, but certainly good to experience regardless.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I said Sean sent me, they might lock the doors. We'll have to go and see about that. But you can see now Sean Thompson coming around, 1:17's his time so far as he comes through the final corner here. He's had a very clean lap as far as traffic goes. Let's see what he can do as he comes across the line now. Did a 1:26.495, and that brought him up to 24th. So still a little bit off the pace.
Yeah, but I wonder if we see the same play that he did in the last one, where he started out of pits and managed to sort of avoid all that carnage in the start. It's probably not a bad move considering he's starting mid-pack in this one. Just let those guys in front. We know there's going to be issues. Maybe get a few cars out of the way and he can sort of come through nice and cleanly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he chooses to do. But yeah, it could be a good play. It did benefit him a lot last time, didn't it? And we did see a heck of a lot of carnage. We're going to try and cover a bit more of it this race. And I'll probably go to the blimp view, I think, and see if we can pick up the action from there.
Yeah, definitely. It does give you a few more spots to be able to see on. I think that's pretty much what I ran for the last race, which was quite good. But just watching all the guys now that are still out, not really seeing any major movements here in the top 10 either. We've still got Dane Warren, provisional pole, followed by Luke Harvey, Mullen in third. Michael Healy, who we saw obviously have those issues in race one, sitting in fourth at the moment, so he's up a couple of grid spots from where he started the first race. Riley Blythe in fifth, followed by Daniel Benefield, Daniel Williams out of seventh at the moment, Jordan Ross, Thomas McMillan and Brodie Whitmore inside the top 10. So just under a second. I think we're 9/10 for that top 10, so pretty close racing.
Yeah, and Brian Borg now, we've got him on screen. He's actually knocking on the door for the top 10, and he's on his flying lap now. He's trying to knock off Brodie Whitmore for that 10th position, and we'll see what he can do if he can get this laser racing entry into the top 10 tonight.
Yeah, he doesn't need much at all. A tenth of a second pretty much will get him inside that top 10. Currently just under a tenth between himself and Brodie Whitmore. So he'll be looking to use every little bit of road, keep that entry and exit speeds up, and I think we put the curse on him. He's been this one.
Yeah, he certainly did. Yep, that's your fault. You were talking about him. Let's just walk away. Don't look back. Nothing happening there.
Yeah, no, we'll have to do that. Sorry, Brian. Best of luck starting out of 11th tonight, mate. I'm sure you'll do well. Yeah,
we just cut to Brodie Whitmore, who also binned it. Henry King, well, he's a smart man. He's not game to come out while he's on camera. Brady May is 15th at the moment, and I think he's moved up one position to where we saw him last time. He's on a flyer now, and he possibly may get it in because the checkered flag is done. And I think he just put two wheels on the grass, so that probably ended that.
Yeah, one of the surprise ones I'm a bit surprised to see sitting outside that top 10 at the moment too is Duran Nakura. We know how good he can race. Runs a similar car to what Dane Warren does, and those guys normally are up the pointy end of this field, so he's going to have a little bit of work to do coming out of 12th for this race.
And Jason Bentz didn't turn a lap. He's in the server. He hasn't turned a lap, so he may be choosing to start from pit lane. But I reckon let's get into the grid and go through that, because it's going to, again, it's a big grid here.
Yep.
Okay, so let's have a look at the grid. So Dane Warren will start from pole position tonight with a 1:24.595. He'll be joined on the front row by Luke Harvey. Then we've got Marlon McMullen and Michael Healy in the second row. Third row tonight, Riley Blythe in fifth. Daniel Benefield, he'll start out of sixth. Out of seventh is Daniel Williams, followed by Jordan Ross in eighth. Thomas McMillan will start out of ninth, with Brodie Whitmore next to him in 10th. Out of 11th will be Brian Borg, and Duran Nakura, he's going to start out of 12th.
In 13th tonight, we've got Thomas Hinds, followed by Brodie Mayers in 14th. Henry King will be coming out of 15th tonight, followed closely behind by Brennan Bateman in 16th. Gene Fittis and Jamie McKnight are in 17th and 18th respectively. We've got Craig Jones in 19th, followed by Pete Sattler in 20th. Tom Curran, in 21st, followed by Matt Morris. Jaden Borg is in 23rd position. Sean Thompson tonight in 24th. Adam Wyburton in 25th, followed by Mitchell Bales out of 26th. Paul Preston in 27th, followed by Jamie Scott in 28th. Johnson Ben in 29th, and Thomas Hadina in 30th.
Out of 31st will be Kyle Stokes, followed by David Kinmond in 32nd. Jacob Knight, out of 33rd. Christopher Kessie will start out of 34th tonight with Nathan Tregarthen in 35th. He's got Simon Mazzomo starting next to him in 36th. 37th, Zach Raditz. Then we have Stephen Varga, followed by David Miller. So the two Redback boys are starting very close to each other there. Paul Tarjavara in 40th. Matt Lebiadovan, oh man, I can't pronounce that, in 41st. Tony Gaffer will start out of 42nd. Out of 43rd, Josh Morgan, followed by Matt Torkins. Then we have Andrew Johnston out of 45th. 46th, Mark Newton. Steve Kirk, 47th. 48th is Jason Bentz, and that's your field.
Yeah, so good to see. I think we're a few cars down from what we saw in the first race, but all in all, just under 50 cars for this split is very, very good.
Yeah, it certainly is. And let's have a look at the blimp view, folks, and I'm trying to get us as wider angle as I possibly can find us, but it's a massive field once again, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's going to be very interesting to see how many of these guys will take the start from pit lane for this one. Obviously, we saw it work for a couple of guys in the first race, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the pit lane cameras going here. There's no one in pit lane, so they're all on the grid. And we've got a few drivers we're still waiting on, but we're underway here, so some will start from the pits by the looks of it. So lights are ready. Revs will be rising here very shortly, and it's go now on green for race 2 here at Brands Hatch. And a good start there by Luke Harvey. He'll lead the field in, but look at the field coming through behind them.
Yeah, I saw a couple of guys getting off the line there, 2 and 3 wide at the start. Dane Warren's made a great jump and got pretty nice control of this field. Mullen up the inside here of Luke Harvey as well as they go through turn 2, and potentially going to see Luke Harvey take that spot back.
Yeah, we're having deep in the field here, having a look at all the action, trying to find any. The drivers have been behaving themselves, but 3 wide here. You can see Henry King out there, and one of the Pagnian cars goes around. Bit of carnage now. That's who's that? 38 goes around. Tommy Harradine.
Yeah, so I think we had 1 or 2 have a bit of issue there. That's a lot better considering what we saw in race 1, and it wouldn't have been intentional by Henry at all, but I think there's a bit more going on now.
Yeah, we just lost Jaden Borg there. We're jumping back to have a look at exactly what happened. That was where was that, coming down on the back straight there, and we'll keep an eye. He's gone around, and then he's come back on the track, and it looks like he's been collected because he's sitting in the middle of the track. Yes, he has. That's pretty much like getting run over in peak hour traffic, isn't it, while you're on your electric bike?
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. Looks like it got started, a little bit of damage in the back there, and I don't know who it was, but just up the inside and just turned him, and it caused a big lot of issues there for those cars getting through behind.
Yeah, and the safety car is out, folks. So they've decided to bring the safety car out here. I was wondering what that Porsche was doing, racing all these V8 supercars as it came out. Everyone went running past. So they will regroup. I'm just trying to work out the drivers affected here. Nathan Tregarthen, Adam Wyborn, and Jonathan Ben all had to get towed. So I'm trying to go back to where that action occurred.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch all that on track, so if you're able to get a replay, it'd be very interesting to know what's happened with that one.
Yeah, I'm just going to go back and have a look. See if we can jump back here. So we saw Jonathan there. He's carrying a lot of rear end damage already. And then the big incident on the back took out a couple more cars. Oh yeah, the massive crash there with Jonathan Ben. Who else is in there? Quite a number of cars have pretty much crashed coming off the how could you say it? Back straight. Let's go back and have another look from high above, so we can actually see this unfold.
Yeah, and that's all initially come about from that issue with Jaden Borgen getting spun, and looks like a lot of the guys further back have checked up trying to avoid it, and it's just sort of cascaded from there, and we've had a lot more issues.
Yeah, pretty much, and it's the usual, everyone ploughing into each other, and carnage ensued. So that really started at the top of the back straight, and cars were banging all the way down to the end of the back straight when it all just got crazy and everyone just ricocheted off each other.
Yeah, so they'll definitely get the attention of race stewards at the end of this one. They'll want to have a look over that and maybe work out whether some of these guys had the ability to maybe play it a little smarter and get out of the gas a bit sooner. But usual racing driver thing, the red mist down, you want to get through as quick as you can, and unfortunately you get these few issues.
Yeah, certainly do, but let's have a look at your top 10 as they stand while we take a breath here. Dane Warren, he's leading the race at the moment with Luke Harvey right behind him. Mullen third, fourth, Riley Blythe once again. We've got Michael Healy sitting in fifth, Daniel Benefield sixth position, seventh Daniel Williams, eighth is Thomas McMillan, followed by Jordan Ross in ninth. Brian Borg up one position, he's in 10th.
Yeah, so good to see Brian get up there. I'm glad to see Michael's managed to get through a few more laps other than what he did in the first one, but pretty much status quo at the moment. Just going down the list just to see if there's any sort of big moves. Looks like Steve Kirk's up 12 spots at the moment. He's still in 35th, however, but up 12 spots. Matt Lepoitovan, he's had another 12 spots come up, so there's a few guys that may have been able to get out of some of these issues and take advantage of those crashes.
Yeah, as always in these things, you have winners, you have losers, and one of them we can see on screen at the moment, that's 029, Paul Preston. He's carrying a lot of damage, and of course we saw him involved in that big one, and he's decided to stay out, and with no front end. But as we've seen before, if your steering and suspension's fine, these cars can take a beating, and they miraculously don't get affected by body damage like they should. So he'll be fine, and he'll be back up to speed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen guys that have run these cars with much worse damage than that. No rear wings on them, a lot more fender damage, and still be semi-competitive. So Paul will do all right. It looks like we've got the green flag back underway for this one now.
Yeah, and Dane Warren has taken the lead. It's going to be interesting to see what Dane can do here. Remember, we were talking about any surprises, and we've got Dane out there up the front now, so we know he's fast. We'll see what the guys can do. Mullen, McMullen, Riley Blythe coming through. It's a nice clean start here, and as it should, because it's a single file restart.
Yeah, almost a carbon copy of what we saw in the first lap there with Luke Harvey and Marlon McMullen. Those two fighting pretty hard, and Marlon wasn't able to sort of get up there and have a challenge straight away after turn two, but tucking in pretty nicely in third now. Yeah,
and they'll all want to get into the rhythm, get the tyres up to temperature, feel what the car's doing underneath them, and then start moving forward. You can see Duran Nakora here in 15th position, and he's got Brady Mays on his contact. And who was that going around? Was that Duran?
Yeah, that was Duran. He lent on, looks like Thomas Hinz a little bit there, and Brennan Bateman managed to squeak through, maybe I think had a slide off track, but that was very interesting, that one.
Yeah, so we can see him now. He's got his hands full in that all-star entry. He's got Braden Bateman right behind him. Thomas Hinz also looking racy in 17th position.
Yeah, and it looks like Thomas was just able to let off and redress that issue. So smart driving by Thomas there, and that shouldn't see any issues come post-race for that one. Thomas is still looking pretty racy, trying to get up the inside as he does here of Brennan Bateman. That's a good little pass there into turn one, and that momentum's just thrown him wide, and maybe open the door again for Braden to get back through.
Yeah, that was there's contact behind him though. Yeah, we've got one car around and trying to work that out. That was the 890. Gene Fittis was involved in that.
Yeah, and it also looked like Jamie McKnight was in that one as well, so a bit interesting. Some of these guys are pushing very hard to get through, and I think Jamie actually got a little bit of a helping hand there from Pete Sattler behind him. So not on Jamie that one. That's just a good hard racing, I think.
Yeah, it looked like Gene had actually lost it coming into the hairpin there, and he spun wide, and the 111, Craig Jones, just went straight in the side of him. He had nowhere to go.
Yeah, so hopefully these guys now will just sort of take stock, settle down a little bit more. We've still only got 10 laps to go to the end of this one, but it can be very easily won or lost in those 10 if they're not careful.
Yeah, and then Craig was getting back up to speed, and he's been tagged, I'd say, by one of the redback boys he has, and around he goes once again. And not having a good night out there whatsoever.
No, he's not going to be happy, especially after the result that he managed to get in race 1. So, been pretty disappointed with how this has gone. But he's got Matt Hawkins just in front of him. I'm not sure whether that's a 4-position pass, but Craig's dropped a long way down after that spin.
If you want to see some crazy drive, some great drive in crazy traffic, jump back to 14th here, Daniel. Have a look at this train of V8 supercars, and they're mixing it, and they're doing a great job as Brian Borg has a look on the inside of Thomas Hinz. Thomas Hinz in returns on the case of Jiran Nakora, and this is a great battle pack.
Yeah, good driving from all those. I think Brian got just a slight little tap there on the back of Thomas, and Thomas nearly got it up into the back of Duran. So guys are doing well just to sort of keep out of that. But that's a good little train. We've got 5 or 6 cars here. Brody Mayers is just up in front. When I say Brody Whitmore is just behind. Henry King, Duran, Thomas Bryan, Pete Sattler's getting involved in this one as well. So really going on strong.
Yeah, well, they tried to go through Sheen Curve too wide. It was Pete Sattler, Braden Bateman. Pete had to take to the grass there because, of course, 2 V8 supercars aren't going to fit. You can see also Jamie McKnight trying to get on the back of this battle train. I guess you could call it a battle train, couldn't you?
Yeah, pretty much. We also got Taurus Curran in there. He actually got through with that little bit of issue with Pete there, and he's not doing too bad at all. He's up quite a few spots here. He's started in 21st up into 17th now, so slowly making his way forward as this race unfolds.
Yeah, we can see, we're just looking through the bumper cam there at Thomas Hinz. He's got Jiran Nakora behind him. Then further up, we've got Brady Mayers in 10th, so he's moved up 4 positions, defending against Brody Whitmore and Henry King. Henry's having another good consistent start here once again in that Zuva entry.
Yeah, he sure is. Obviously, we saw him drifting around a bit through qualifying, getting a feel for the car, but come race time now, he's got the helmet on, his eyes forward and pushing very hard. And Brody Whitmore has rubbed panels there. Who was that with Brady Mayers? That's funny.
Yeah, that was going in there too wide, and it just didn't come off, did it?
No, but at the same point, looking at that, Brady was a fair way up the inside. He did have the inside line for that corner, so be a little bit of a racing incident, that one. Obviously, possibly, they could have dropped off a little bit, maybe got both cars through, but I don't think race stewards will look too bad on that one.
No, he was far enough up. He was past the B pillar, that's for sure. So, we've got another car off just as we come back live and trying to pick that up. They went backwards off the track. A green car, that's all I saw, the green flash. And we've also got the Next Level Racing Pagnian car going off wide there. We've jumped back here with Brady in 28th as he's trying to get past 2 redback racing cars. Between those two, they could almost make one new car. But, Brady's on the hunt. He's got Stephen Varga and David Miller around him. Yeah,
he's got one of the Pagnium cars. Is that just in behind? Paul Tachvara just behind him, and Matt Lapoitovan coming through as well. So the Steele Simsford guys slowly making their way back up the front. I did see a good little battle going on just up in front, or a fair way up the field. We jump up quickly to 7th. We've got Jordan Ross, Daniel Benefield, Thomas McMullen, all with, throw a blanket over the top of these guys. They're going hammer and tong right now.
Well, they certainly are, and Daniel Benefield's dropped 2 positions down to 8s, and he wanted to experience V8 supercar racing. He's definitely doing that tonight, and he's in the thick of it.
Yeah, he sure is. Traditionally we've seen Daniel running a lot of GT stuff, so it's good to see him branching out into the V8s, and Completely different animal, but certainly got the right feel to be pushing up towards the front end of this field.
Yeah, and we just saw Thomas McMillan there get it a bit loose, and he's gathered it up. He had a wheel out on the grass, but didn't affect him too much. And 8 laps remaining, halfway through here so far, folks. And looking at your leader, that's Dane Warren. He has just launched it, and 1.6 seconds is the gap back to Luke Harvey in the Ace Tennis Harvey Bay entry. Then we've got Marlon McMullen third, Riley Blythe fourth, right behind him. Michael Healy off the gap of the front four in fifth. Then we've got Daniel Williams in the Cage-centric entry. Seventh is Jordan Ross. Eighth, Daniel Benefield. And ninth, Thomas McMillan. Rounding out your top 10 is Brody Whitmore.
Yeah, and I'll just jump back up here to the front couple of guys. I'm just watching this battle going on here with Marlon McMullen and Riley Blythe, and that's currently for third in this race, and they're not that far behind Luke Harvey, but these two are going very very hard for this last few laps here, and potentially we could see a change of position into third.
Yeah, and we saw this last time, didn't we, when Luke was leading. These two got into a bit of a scrap, and Luke just took off, and that was the last they saw of him. So we'll see if this battle continues.
Yeah, definitely, and we've still got that good little battle going further back here for 7th, 8th and 9th between Jordan, Daniel and Thomas. So same as we saw in the first race, you can pick pretty much any driver on the track and find a decent battle going on. There's another one, that big train we spoke of earlier. We've still got Brody Whitmore, Thomas Hinds, Duran Nakura, Henry King, Brian Borg's brought into that one, Brendan Bateman, Tom Curran, Pete Sadler, Jamie McKnight. I mean, you got 10 cars there within 10 seconds and pushing extremely hard at the moment.
Yeah, we just saw there Riley Blythe get past Marlon McMullen. Tell you what, they went too wide for about 3 corners, and Riley really had to work for that position, and he has got it, but Marlon's not letting him go.
Yeah, but that's great racecraft from both drivers there. Plenty of room given, or just enough room to get the job done and not impact each other, but good respect being shown, and this battle's now starting to rage on as Riley gets a little loose through that second to last corner there.
Yeah, and these guys were racing side by side. No panels were rubbed. You just saw there, Riley got it a bit loose. Marlon had a look, then he backed out of it, and thought twice of it. But that's showing the mutual respect between these two guys. They race hard, but they race clean. Is what we like to see. And once again, Marlon McMullen all over the back of Riley Blythe here, and that is for the final step on the podium.
Yeah, but this is what's actually helping too. Marlon McMullen, we're seeing with the driving style that he's doing and the consistency he can run at. Yes, he's not winning the races, but remember that points championship, he's leading the non-drivers endurance standings at the moment as well. So this just goes to prove that good consistent racing that he's doing is able to keep him getting those points as he runs a little wide, but he's doing everything he needs to do just perfect.
Exactly right, and to win a series such as this, it's the consistency in the Drivers' Championship that counts, and exactly what you said, that's what Marlon's doing at the moment. And we saw that, I think it was a year and a half ago, TD Racing took out one of the championships in the Endurance Championship, and they did it, they never won a race, but they did it consistently, being in the top 5. And when I spoke to them at the end of the season, they said that was their game plan, a top 5 car. Every round, if they could, would tie up the championship.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a good mindset to have. You don't have to go out and balls to the walls and win every race, but get in the mindset where you drive to your limit, maybe a little beyond every now and then, but on that limit, lap after lap, you're going to come home nice and strong. And we're seeing that even a little further down with some of these battles that are still going on between. 7th, Jordan Ross, Daniel Benefield and Thomas McMillan. These guys are still going hard at it. A few laps from the end of the race, but not giving an inch here.
No, we're riding with Daniel at the moment, and got the telemetry up down to first through the hairpin there. He's got Jordan Ross just ahead of him. In the mirror you can see Thomas McMillan dancing around behind him, and no doubt he'd be keeping a very close eye what's happening in front of him as well as what's going on behind him.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, he's losing maybe a touch of time to Daniel Williams just in front. That gap, just under 0.8 of a second between them. But he's doing exactly what he needs to do. Enough width on the car to stop Daniel getting past him. But at the same point, he's not losing a huge amount to Daniel in front of him. So he's the Jordan in a Daniel sandwich at the moment.
Just stay with him as he comes through Sheen Curve. Have a look at this, folks. You come in, he's pretty much, you're taking that corner without being able to sight that ripple strip on the inside to the last minute. That's what I was saying in race one. If you think it's interesting in one of these, try it in one of the open wheelers when you're a lot lower.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the Skippy would be a good one for that. The Formula Renault. If you're brave enough and got coconuts for kahunas, you could do it in the F1 car, I guess. But it does add a different perspective, like you say, going at those different heights.
Yeah, it certainly does. And we're having a look at the moment. Jacob Knight in 22nd position. He's battling with Matt Morris and Kyle Stokes back here. Matt and Jacob, they're getting it a bit loose, but they're getting into it. And of course, we saw Jacob in race one coming to grief, didn't we? And he's having a better run this time.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. He's up 11 spots at the moment, like you mentioned. It was about this point on the track now that he had that big lose and ruined race one for himself. But doing everything he needs to do, up 11 spots now, sitting in 22nd, and he'll be happy with that battle he's got going on with Matt Morris just behind him.
Yeah, and then behind them, Paul Tajavara and David Miller are going at it, which is good. And that's down 25th. Then my telemetry starts going a bit haywire, folks, around about 30th. But you can see down here Mitchell Bales in 29th with David Kinmond and Brady Mayers trying to catch him down in 32nd. But let's get back up to the pointy end of the field. And Brodie Whitmore at the moment, he is defending against, no he's not, who's he attacking, sorry? Thomas Hinds and Duran Nakura.
Yeah, this has been going on for a fair little while now, so we're looking here at, where are we? 10th, 11th and 12th at the moment on track, and it's been a good little battle. Thomas looking up the inside. That's not going to end well if they're not careful there.
Yeah, well, what that has done is it's allowed Brodie to pounce on the outside, Thomas on the inside. Let's see how they go around here too wide. Brodie squeezing Thomas a little bit, and he's made that move. That was good driving there by Brodie to capitalise on the attempted pass of Thomas on Duran.
Yeah, great racecraft there. Set it up pretty well. Took the outside, managed to get a little bit better run, a little bit higher speed, and nicely across the nose into turn 3 there. So doing a good job. Hopefully, he should get a bit of a draft too, just from Duran, just in front of him there. But Thomas isn't letting go. He's still looking on the outside here now.
And once again, Brodie holds it in. He just goes across the nose there to take the line and let him know that he's not going to let Thomas sneak around the outside there. But it'll be interesting now with Brodie on Duran if he can have a move here and see what he can do.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be hard for him. He's going to have to get the braking markers right the next lap or two just to make it work, as Thomas sort of gives him a bit of a bump and run and gets through. But what has happened to Duran? He's slowed down a hell of a lot, so potential off track through that blind right-hander there.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that, because it was like parting of the seas there, wasn't it, for Thomas Hinds. So we just have a look now, and All-Star put the brakes on, Whitmore on the inside, and Thomas just said, "Thank you very much, I'm coming through," and he pulled the Moses move.
Yeah, that to me looks like it was potentially an off-track, a slow down penalty, and I think potentially Brodie got the same one, because both of those cars, watching the line they took, was right up over the grass. So I think they got the shortcut penalty for that, had to slow down, and yeah, Thomas, like I say, licking the lips, getting a couple of cars there.
Yeah, would you believe we're down to 2 laps remaining here at the moment, and Dane Warren, he's still leading, but Luke Harvey, he's on the march, and he's starting to get that gap. It's down to 0.856 of a second, 0.8 of a second. Then Riley Blythe and Mullen McMullen continue fighting for the final step of this podium.
Yeah, I think Luke, looking at the lap times he's doing at the moment, he's not a huge amount quicker than what Dane is, so potential maybe a bit of a tweak with the tyre pressures or a bar adjustment there as going through on the end, maybe to get that bit of better tyre performance. But Riley and Marlon are still having a good little ding-dong here for third, and I think this one's going to go all the way to the wire for that final step on the podium.
Yeah, well, we're down to the last lap now, so we'll see what they can do here. But at the moment, Dane Warren has this under control, and 1.1 seconds was the gap. Luke Harvey second, but we'll keep an eye on Riley Blythe. Mullen have a look on the inside. He wants that final step. What can he do here with this lap quickly dwindling down? Yeah,
looking at it, unless Riley makes a bad move and we don't want to put the knockers on him, we'll bang on that wood for a bit. But he's just got to put the car on the marks and get it home, and he's got this one in the bag, I think, for third spot.
Yeah, so they're coming down through Jingle Bells, and up to Sheen Curve. You can see now, you weren't going to touch that, were you? Dane Warren now coming into the final corner here to take race 2 here at Brands Hatch, and a great drive by Dane, that's for sure. Luke Harvey, he's going to come home second, and then the question is, who's going to be third? And that looks like Riley Blythe will take third, just ahead of Marlon McMullen. Fifth will be Michael Healy. Then we've got Daniel Williams, followed by Jordan Ross in seventh. Daniel Benefield settles for eighth. Thomas McMillan ninth, and rounding out your top 10 will be Thomas Hinds.
And just behind Thomas, we got Brodie Whitmore coming through during Nakura. That battle still raged on right to the end there. We got Brian Borg coming home pretty comfortably. We got Pete Sattler and Brennan Bateman, those two finished up after their little battle. Not too bad. Looks like Henry King had a bit of an issue. He dropped well down the order on time, so I'm not quite sure what happened to him there.
Yeah, well, I might see if we can go back and have a look, but yeah, he dropped a long ways down, 18th, and Sean Thompson, he's in a retro livery. We were commenting on his Plus Fitness livery. He's running retro tonight, and come home 21st, up 3 positions.
Jacob Knight got himself home in 22nd, so still gained 11 spots there. Kyle Stokes home in 23rd, Matt Morris in 24th, Dave Miller running at 25th. So yeah, good to see that many cars getting home.
And the cars that we saw in trouble, we'll go back to our race winner there. What's he doing? Oh, they're doing 2x2 slide jobs. The two Case-centric All-Star Rack Corp entry. What was I saying? Yeah, the cars that were in trouble there, we had Stephen Varga in the 868 Redback Racing entry, had to go to the pits to get that car repaired. Craig Jones ended up getting his car towed by the looks of it, and Simon Mazzomo in the 515 also to the pits. Nathan Tregarthen, Mark Newton, Steve Kirk, Jonathan Ben and Adam Wyborn, they all had to be towed at one point in that race. Yeah,
Jason Bentz left reasonably early. He had a few issues there, so didn't finish. And Zach Redditz, I believe, had some issues with his wheel having issues in qualifying. So unfortunate for him. I mean, he qualified 37th, wasn't able to make the grid after that wheel failure.
Yeah, that's a shame, isn't it? And we see that reasonably regularly through various drivers having wheel failure. Not so much in the sprint rounds, but the longer ones we generally see that sort of thing happen.
Yeah, and it could be something as as simple as a button. I remember what was it? The Australian Endurance Series we used to run. We were doing the Spa 24 hour. I had to stop a wheel midway through a pit stop because the button stopped working on it. So you jump in, swap a rim, come back in for the next stint, and go again. So it can happen to anyone. It's very unlucky, but that's part of the fun.
Yeah, it happened on one of the AEC rounds as well. It was Reece Gardner, I think. He was driving, and the bolts out of his wheel rim, I think it was, came off, and he ended up, the whole wheel came off, I think, and he ended up binning the car. But that was the most extreme thing I've seen. But looks like we've got Riley Blythe in third. He's in the green room, so we might bring him up and have a chat. Hi Riley, welcome to RRTV's Combox, mate. It's looking like you were having a great battle there with Marlon McMullen, and it looked like there's a lot of respect being shown by both of you guys. It looked like you're battling hard, but battling clean. And he's speechless. I can't hear you, mate.
Had my mic up, it was muted. Anyway, it was really good racing with Marlon. I knew it would be a good, clean racer to me, so I, tried to test that, and we were both respectful and clean enough, and that's what makes racing fun. And I was really determined to get past him because he's a championship leader. So if any position I am ahead of him, that's momentum and the points advantage reduced in the championship. So I was really pushing to try and get past him, and in the end it ended up being really, really fun.
Yeah, we saw you make that move, and I tell you what, Marlon made you work for it. It started up there in the just coming into the hairpin, and you were too wide into the next couple of corners, I think, before you had that move made.
Yeah, I was trying through turn 3 to squeeze him to the inside a little bit, because I know you can run out wide and get a bit of momentum on the outside. In fact, I did the same move to him in race 1. And I got on the throttle nice and early, ran out, used as much of that outer AstroTurf as you can, since things you don't get an off track for using that, and then just powered out, and I'm pretty sure I cleared him just before the next corner. And yeah, I'm actually really proud of those 2 moves I pulled on Marlon race 1 and 2.
It was definitely a good move. I'm going to hand you over to Daniel Leet now and see if he's got any more questions for you.
Yeah, congratulations, Riley. Well done on third, mate. And I think it was a P2 in race 1. So good points all. That was one thing I was going to touch on. Your consistency we mentioned with Marlon is a big thing. So expecting you to look to be if not inside the top 5, maybe knocking on the door of that. But probably my main question: we know how chaotic it was with the amount of cars. How did you find qualifying? Short track racing, 50 plus cars. Any issues that you had during that phase?
I was just simply trying my best to find a little gap I could work with in qualifying. I got out as soon as I can and just ran and kept the tyres cool, and then just tried to find myself a good clean gap to smash 1 lap out in. And on both occasions, that first lap was the fastest lap. So I knew that going in, that the track would be at its best at the start with no dirt on it. So I just made sure I did a clean lap at the start, and it got a decent position out of both qualifying sessions. But I can imagine that a lot of people, in fact I heard through the chat that a lot of people are having issues, and I had issues with the earlier sprint races, places like Zolder, where I just couldn't get a lap in with the amount of cars on track. But that's kind of half the challenge, isn't it? So I'm not really, I'm not bothered by that.
Yeah, definitely. And is that something, when you guys go out and run, do you just look to be first out the gate and go for it, or do you use your track maps and the likes to sort of see where everyone sort of goes for it and maybe pick a spot, or just get out there and hammer and tongs?
I personally don't use a track map, but I'm paying very close attention to the relative box. So I just I'm working on just finding a decent gap, like 2 seconds either side will work. And I try and get out as quickly as I can, because that increases the likelihood of finding a decent gap. If you're, your pit stalls at the back and you've got out a little late, you'll have a bit more issues. So I just try and get out there, but I won't push too hard on the outlap because that'll hurt the tires. So it's an interesting little balancing act.
Yeah, definitely. That's probably a good insight too for any of the guys looking at coming in, how they can potentially read scenarios and get out there. But one point you did touch on with the qualifying was the amount of dirt. Did you find through the race, obviously, as we had a lot more issues with incidents and the like, and the dirt build-up is normally pretty bad through turn 1 through the dip, and at a couple of other points on the track. Did you find that affected the car handling through the rest of that race?
A little bit. In race 2, a bit more than race 1. I don't know if that was due to slightly different conditions, but it was definitely, kind of, you got a bit sketchy if you went offline. If you stayed on the line, it was pretty okay, but running offline was pretty scary. Making dives into turn 2 was pretty difficult because a lot of dirt got dragged up there from people running off, putting wheels in the gravel in turn 1, and then it carries all the way up into the entry to turn 2, and so you need to watch if you were poking your nose out or anything, not to lock a brake.
Yeah, definitely. I always saw a couple of guys have issues. Similar probably thing did lock the brake as a result of that and caused some issues. But look, before we let you get out of here, and we better get a shout out from all the sponsors. And congratulations, great result tonight for yourself. I believe it was P2 race 1 and P3 race 2. So fantastic job, mate.
Absolutely. Shout outs to Logitech G, fantastic. I've running one of their G920 wheels. It's been not a single fault, and I just love it, to be honest. Dual Reel timing, again, absolute godsend of a piece of software. New visual spotter's just out, and that will help a myriad of drivers, especially multi-class, and the fuel numbers have been bang on all the time. And GTI running their springs in my pedals, and that's improved the already pretty good Logitech G920 pedals a step up. So all the sponsors have been fantastic.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for putting on a great show for everyone out there. We're going to be keeping an eye to see you getting up inside that top 5 and making a good run for the championship for the remaining couple of races, mate.
Well, that's the plan. I hope so. Cheers, guys.
So that was Riley Blythe coming home third for Evolution Racing Team. The next person we have is Braden Bateman, I think it is, and Pete Sattler's down there. So we'll bring up Braden first, followed by Pete second, I think. Hi Braden, welcome to the RRTV Combox, mate. Looks like you came home 14th, just behind Pete Sattler tonight.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome. How did race 2 go for you? It looked like you were having a good battle there.
Yeah, it was really good. I wasn't too happy with something that happened, but other than that, it was really good, hard racing. I think we were 3 wide there and all sorts of passing and trying to jostle around all the time. It was really good racing out of all the guys that were around me.
Yeah, it definitely looked like good racing. How did you find qualifying? We were saying during the broadcast that it'd probably be pretty tricky having that amount of cars on Brands Hatch to actually find a gap. Is that what you found, or you did it okay?
First one I was struggling because the first qualifying I kept on getting off tracks, and by the time that I started to knuckle down and not get the off tracks, it was already too late. The track was already run in and a lot of cars have ran over it, so it was already hot and I couldn't get the time that I wanted. But second time, I just took my time, down my gap and just head down, and second qualifying wasn't too hard.
Fantastic. And I'll hand you over to Daniel now, because I don't want to steal all the questions, because he always has the best ones.
Good.
Okay, Braden. I don't know if I got the best ones, mate, but we saw a little bit in the second race, a couple of issues. I think one of them was also involving Pete Sattler, who we're going to have up in the box next. But besides a couple little issues, how did you find the racing out there for tonight? Obviously, safety car race 2, which we didn't get in race 1, that sort of shook it up a little bit more.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. A lot of pushing and shoving, but a lot of it was mistakes. It wasn't on purpose, so they weren't even Heat said down the bottom I had it, but it was just maybe my car went out and just a lot of stuff happens and it was an accident, and a lot of them are. It wasn't on purpose, nothing malicious. In all the incidents that happened tonight with involving me that I know of, it's hard, especially when the track starts to get dirty. That turn one, you try and get a pass down the inside, and the car just goes everywhere. The dirt just stays on the car, and you just slide around. It gets really challenging trying to do a pass there.
Yeah, definitely, and that obviously builds up a lot more through the race as it progresses on. Do you find it affects more of your braking points through turn 2 and a couple of other spots around the circuit? Like when we were talking to Riley, he mentioned that there is a bit more potential for brake lockup. Did you notice the same sort of effects?
Yeah, early on in the race, it was a lot easier to pull up the car, especially on turn 2. It was a lot more easier. As the race progressed and you tried to be a bit more aggressive and pushy, it was more and more harder. You would have to really concentrate on the braking more than ever through there, because one wrong little brake input and the car would just lock up. You'd lock the rear in the grass or onto the dirt that was all over the track, and there was just a one line through there at the end, I think.
Yeah, it looked very similar. That it made passing a little bit more harder. One final question I got before we go. Between what you guys normally tend to do in the 150 and endurance races, do you look at maybe tweaking the setup a little more to be a bit more aggressive on the use of tyres for these shorter sprint rounds at all?
I don't. I like to have my tyres the whole race. I try to look after them a fair bit, but it's a lot harder here. The track's been really slippery and it's really hard on wheel spin. So I tried to have it so then I could really use all my tyres the whole race, instead of knocking them out with about 5 laps to go, then you got nothing.
Yeah, definitely. Mate, I think it was 14th in race 1, home again 14th in, 15th in race 2, so maybe not the best of the nights, all things considered. Certainly looking forward to seeing the next race, which I believe we're at Suzuka, I think for another 60-60 race, so that's going to be a bit of interesting fun. Before we let you get out of here and go cool off for the night, and have you got a shout out for any of the sponsors on board tonight?
Yep, I would like to thank our sponsors, WP Concreting and Western Mazda. They do a lot for us, and it's not forgettable. So thank you to those, and thank you to my teammates too. I wouldn't be here without them, without their help. That's pretty much it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming in and giving us a bit of insight to your race, mate. And like I say, we'll look forward to seeing you back out on track for the next one.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So our next interview will be with Pete Sattler. He finished just ahead of Braden, so it'll be interesting, Daniel, to get his point of view of things.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm just quickly ducking back through the results of race 1 as well, just to sort of see where the boys both finished up, just so we can get a bit of a contrast in race results for those two as well.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, I'll start the interview.
Hit me up there.
Hi Pete, welcome
to... I nearly swore then.
I know, I was waiting for it. Welcome to the RRTV Combox, mate. Looked like you had a better run in race 2 than race 1.
Didn't feel like it. I think race 1 was pretty action-packed, to be honest. Race 2, sorry, was more action-packed than race 1. For me, anyway.
Okay, well I got my stats wrong. I'll blame Daniel on that. He's feeding me all the facts while I talk. But
better finishing position in race 1.
Okay, I thought you got turned around.
No, I ended up off the track. That was my own doing though. I finished 11th in race 1.
Oh, there you go. Well done. So I'm going to hand you over to Daniel, because obviously he knows more about this than I do.
Jeez, Bernie, get it together.
Look, I don't know if I know it better, but g'day Pete, welcome up to the commentary box, mate. Give us your take. Race 1 and 2, obviously a little bit different scenario. Race 1, as you mentioned, P11, so good result there, just outside the top 10. But race 2, few issues, bit of contact obviously you mentioned with Braden, but how did you find the racing styles between split race 1 and 2?
A little bit different. Race 1, I think Henry said after the race, he goes, "It should call me Moses because everything just kept opening up in front of me. Everyone kept having crashes and issues, and I'll just drive straight through it. There was no problem at all." But race 2 was a bit different. It was lots of battle packs, and it was pretty intense for a while there.
Yeah, well, we noticed you having a pretty decent battle with Braden in the second one. That was quite entertaining to watch. Obviously, a little bit of an issue. I think potentially you tagged the back rear, but all things considered, with the type of track, the time of the race, with the amount of dirt and that, bit of a racing incident there.
We got a big hit up the arse from Gene. Actually, Gene fired, so that hit me into Braden, which in turn hit him into, I forget who was in front then. It wasn't Jamie McKnight. I forget who it was. Yeah, so it was just a big concertina there, and there was the big beach on the outside of turn 1, which didn't help things.
Yeah, definitely. Turn 1, tricky enough without the amount of dirt, and more so once you get it on. But we don't traditionally see a safety car in these races. Bit of an unusual sight to see the Porsche out in front for race 2.
Not sure if we've still got Pete there.
Sorry, here I am. Wrong button, guys. So the safety car was good because it made everything single file and it was a little bit easier to start after that.
I think a lot of that came from Jaden getting turned around. Did he say much on the team chat, sort of in regards to his take on that at all?
A little bit, yeah, just a little bit.
Anything we can poke out of you for it?
No, no, because there's a lot of expletives in it.
All right, fantastic. Well, Pete, I know you stepped up, did the race control tonight in Nick's absence, so thank you very much for taking that over for the night. Before we let you get out of here, better get a shout out from yourself and the Stealth Sim Sport boys.
Yeah, all the boys, mate, we did a good job tonight, and thank you to our sponsors, Pagniar, Leading Edge Computers. I can't forget who else is on the car. Oh, that's right, RRTV's on the car as well. Thank you, Bernie. And yes, I hope everyone had a good night racing, and let's come back next week and do it again.
Yeah, definitely. I think next week, just looking on the schedule, we're off to Suzuka, another short sprint round format, which should be a lot of fun.
Can't wait.
Fantastic. Well, thanks again for doing everything with the service tonight, mate. Putting on a good show and getting out and having a run, and we'll look forward to seeing you back out there again next week.
Cheers, guys. So,
that teaches me a lesson. I need to learn my facts before I start talking to people.
That's all right. I was going back just to sort of work out between where we saw him race 1 and 2, and he jumped onto it just as I got that screen come up.
Yeah, fair enough. I should have waited. Anyway, our final interview for tonight, folks, is with Thomas Hins, and Thomas came home in 10th position. Hi Thomas, welcome to the RRTV Combox, and thanks for waiting, mate. See, you cracked the top 10 in race 2, and it looked like you're having a good battle there. We did at one point see you fighting with Brody and Duran, and it was a very interesting move I think you made coming into the final corner and about mid-race.
Yeah, no, indeed. That was interesting because earlier on, and out of turn 3, I think it is, me and Brody had a little bit coming together. Brody just gave me a little tap up the backside there, just didn't quite, I think, guess what my breaking point was. You know, it happens, no stress, no problems there. But we both kind of went wide, and then Duran split the middle on us earlier on. And then, then out of there, I think, as I'm sure you guys probably picked up, I assume he had a cut track and he had to clear it, so he's pulled off to clear that. And then Brody got a bit of a poor run out of there. He got a bit squirrely, so I sort of got alongside. And I think Brody saw me coming, saw Duran slowing, and thought, maybe I should just back out of this and let's survive. I think that's why he kind of backed out there. And I was kind of committed. I was like, I want this position. I'm just going for it. So it was a little bit bandside maybe, and kind of relying on Brody to back out, but thankfully he did, and it all worked out. So no, yeah, that battling was very intense. We were a bit of door rubbing, lots of moving around. It was very full on, but hey, we all got through in the end. I think kind of shows for us anyway. Obviously, we're all those two guys are ex-PFR, so we were teammates. I think there's a bit of knowledge of how each of us race, and that sort of shows that we were able to battle that intensely and not wipe each other out. Is sort of a showing of the trust we have in each other, really. And yeah, that was. I mean, it was just crazy, and you kind of half the time was like, oh, when's it going to go wrong? But it was also fantastic fun as well, and to come out the victor of it is always nice. So yeah, and that was a good 10th, and obviously race 1 got the 6th there as well. Bit more of a stated one, that one, compared to race 2. Managed to hold off Daniel behind. Good battle with him in race 1, and yeah, I was really happy to get the 6th. So yeah, no, 2 good solid top 10s, which is, well, yeah, it was pretty much all I could hope for. I mean, I assumed I was going to get wiped out one of the races because, brands, 50 cars, it's just what you expect. But to get both of them cleanly and get 2 top 10s, I mean, yeah, I can't ask for much more.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to hand you over to Daniel now and see if he's got some more questions for you.
Yep.
G'day, Thomas. Welcome to the box, mate. Got just the one question for you, and it's a bit of a two-parter one, so just bear with me for a sec. More so to do with the qualifying that we saw between race 1 and race 2. Obviously, race 1, I believe, P10 for qualifying. Race 2, we had you in P13. Did you find it was a little bit more difficult finding a bit more space to get out and about for a decent lap in the second race, or just a couple of issues maybe in the car that slowed that lap down a little bit?
The second one was more that I didn't quite get a clear run. The first one I actually got a lovely tow from, I think it was Christopher Kessley. He was just far enough ahead that I didn't quite catch him completely, but he was just the right distance, so I got a nice little tow at the end of the lap, so that's why I think I was able to bang out that lap in the first one, so that helped. But the second one, yeah, we were all checking up. Obviously, 50 cars do when you're on quali, and we're all checking up at the end of before the final corner. And it was interesting because a few guys just apparently decided to just split the needle, and they just started darting between all of us trying to check up. So that was a bit scary. I'm seeing a few cars flying past you, as you're checking up. So that was interesting. But then that kind of put me off because there's a few guys that were a bit slower that I ended up being behind, and that kind of screwed up my initial run. So the lap, I still got a decent-ish lap out, but it wasn't as good. And then when I went out again, obviously as the session went on, the track was getting dirtier, so it was losing its prime. So yeah, I think the race, I think the second quali was definitely didn't quite work out as well. Just the placing wasn't quite as ideal as the first quali session, and when you got 50 cars around a track like Brands, that's going to happen. You got to be. I think there's a little bit of luck involved. It's a bit of a lottery for where you end up in the quali. I mean, you can try and position yourself, but sometimes you just won't get lucky, and you'll be in a really bad spot. So no, that was definitely, there was a difference there between the two for sure.
Yeah, definitely, and obviously now we're going to start turning our attention onto Suzuka, another short track. I think they're running the Suzuka Westlat, so it's going to be a bit of an interesting one. Another 2-race format, 60 or what is it, 15-lap race. So, you think you're going to find a big difference in what you guys potentially ran and set up with the slightly quicker corners of Brands Hatch to say some of the stop-start stuff that we're going to see at Suzuka?
Yeah, I think there'll definitely be some tweaks, that's for sure, with the setup to adjust for different track. I'm sure everyone will be working on that over the week as per usual. We'll be interested to see how tyre wear goes. Obviously not being as flowing, I would assume it won't be as bad being stop-start, I would guess. I don't think it would be as bad because I was finding, in race 1 anyway, not as much in race 2, although because of the battling and that it was hard to sort of judge it properly because we didn't get as many clean running laps. But in race 1, in the middle of the race, I kind of, a few laps there, the car just kind of gave up a bit. It felt like it just kind of lost a bit of its edge. That's when Daniel really started pressuring me. When I had a couple laps there, it just, the tyres kind of didn't feel right. I got a bit of push through the corners. That was interesting because I don't usually have that, and it just kind of happened. I'm assuming I pushed the fronts a bit too hard or something, and they sort of gave up a little bit, and then they came back, which is the weird thing. They kind of went and then came back after a few laps, which was something I don't usually get, so it's a bit odd. But I think definitely at Suzuka will be a bit different setup wise, and I think tyre wear and just general how they perform over the race will be different because of the different style of track, and it'll be interesting as well to see if there's differences in pace from people, like if some people are a bit better in those kind of circuits than ones like Brands, because I know that I think that Brands in the V8s I think it's a bit of either you like or you don't. There's not much in the middle. It's kind of really like or really don't like. So we'll see if Suzuka's a bit more universally liked perhaps, and that kind of thing. But no, it'll be really interesting, and sure we make for some pretty intense racing once again, being another 60-60 format.
Yeah, definitely will be, and I think you brought up a good point. It's going to be interesting to see how they get the drive on and off the corner. And before we let you go, congratulations. Maybe not quite the result you would have liked with race 2 compared to race 1, but mate, it's good to see you back out again. Before we let you go, give us a shout out to the boys, and I know you definitely got one with Edge signage for the good looking livery on that car.
Yeah, no, thank you. Edge, of course, with their design of that livery is as I say every time. A big thanks to them, and a big thanks as well, actually, to the boss man himself. # Sean's fault, Sean, just for allowing me to put the little personalised touch on the back wing. It's just awesome having that nickname there on the back because it's one I quite like, so I like seeing it there. I think it's real. I just like having it there. So big thanks to Sean for putting that on actually, and letting me have that sort of personal touch to the livery, and just generally, as I said, to Edge for making the livery. It's absolutely just awesome livery. Looks beastly on the Falcon, I reckon. Looks fantastic. And of course to Race Centre, Kearney, and to GTI, our other main sponsors. Obviously wouldn't have the awesome liveries we have and backing we have without them. I think Waxer as well, another one I should mention, because Simon was running their livery and we run their livery in some GT stuff. With them as our main sponsor, so big thanks to Waxer as well. And again, as I always say, big thanks to the whole team because they're just an epic bunch of guys. And I just love every time I race having those guys there for the banter and everything. I can't think of a better way to race. So big thanks to them, and bring on next round.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming up, giving us your take on the race, mate, and we'll look forward to seeing you at Suzuka next round.
Thank you very much, guys, and thanks for the broadcast as always.
So, folks, that ends our part of the interview phase. But as you're saying, Daniel, next week 60-60 back at Suzuka. So I think it's the first time we've had 2 back-to-back 60-60s. But of course, the other big part of this is we're actually at the halfway point of the championship now. So we're on to the second half starting next week.
Yeah, so next week, like we mentioned, we go to Suzuka, 60-60 race format, same as what we did tonight. The guys get a bit of a reprieve. They get a week off, and then following that, we come back to Montreal, so Circuit de Villeneuve. So bit of a different style, go from the stop-start nature of the West Circuit at Suzuka to the long, traditional GP-style layout of Montreal.
Yeah, so definitely looking forward to that one. But I guess before we end the night, we should really go through the full race results so that we can recap on those and everyone can see where their favourite driver finished in race 2. Okay, final results here are in, folks. So Dane Warren, he won that race. He pretty much led it from start to finish. Luke Harvey came in second, Riley Blythe third. Marlon McMullen, he comes home fourth with Michael Healy in fifth. Sixth position tonight went to Daniel Williams, then Jordan Ross. Daniel Benefield settled in eighth position. Thomas McMillan finished in ninth with Thomas Hinz in 10th. Brody Whitmore 11th. 12th was Duran Nakora.
Brian Ball come home in 13th, followed by Pete Sadler in 14th. Braden Bateman in 15th tonight, followed by Tom Curran in 16th. Jamie McKnight come home in 17th. Henry King was home in 18th, followed by James Scott in 19th. Gene Fiddles, who we had mentioned earlier, had a bit of tap with Pete Sattler there, home in 20th tonight, followed by Sean Thompson in 21st, Jacob Knight in 22nd, Kyle Stokes home in 23rd, Matt Morris was 24th tonight, and David Miller rounds out the 25 in 25th.
Yeah, and I hit the wrong button. So where are we? 25th. Okay, 26th, Paul Tajavara. And then home in 27th was Tommy Harradine, followed by Mitchell Bales. Matt Lepodovan, I can't get that name right. In 29th, David Kinmon, 30th. Jaden Borg comes home 31st. 32nd went to Paul Preston. 33rd, Tony Gaffer. Josh Morgan comes home in 34th, followed by Matt Torkins. Craig Jones didn't have the best of nights in race 2. He came home in 36th position. 37th went to Stephen Varga, followed by Simon Mazzomo. Andrew Johnston comes home in 39th. 40th was Brady Mayers. Also had a pretty rough trot there. Christopher Kessie comes home 41st. Nathan Tregarthen 42nd. Mark Newton 43rd. 44th went to Steve Kirk. Jonathan Ben 45th. 46th Adam Wyborn. Jason Bentz 47th. 48th was Zach Radatz. And that is your field.
Yeah, it's a good little like, few people are going to be a little bit uncertain as to why maybe things went the way they did. Make mention of Craig Jones, had a 5th in race 1 and well down the order in race 2, so sort of 50-50 on the fence for him, I'm sure, but some good results all around. Luke Harvey, great job, P1 race 1, P2 race 2, so almost put together the perfect 2 races.
Yeah, and as we were saying, that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? And in that consistency, and Luke's been showing that tonight, that's for sure. And we'll see how they can carry on next week when they go to Suzuka. And hopefully there's going to be less carnage. I sort of have a feeling Suzuka will be more capable, I guess, of handling these huge fields of V8 supercars. Not saying Brands Hatch can't, it can, but it's a trickier track in my opinion. Yeah,
definitely, and I think the way Suzuki's set up, especially through the first few corners, it's a lot more flowing than what we saw tonight. You're not coming through a big, quick right-hander into a tight hairpin. You've got some good left and right balance to sort of string the field out a little bit, get everyone down into single file before you hit the real technical stuff on the back section. So I think the guys with the V8s will sort of handle it maybe a little better than what we saw tonight. Having said that, take nothing away, 50 cars plus around Brands Hatch and all these guys to get home as in the positions they did is still a great result for them.
Oh, it was brilliant driving, don't get me wrong there. Having that many V8 supercars around here is not an easy job, and we could have seen a heck of a lot more carnage than we did see. Yeah, we had a couple of big ones, but we didn't have any that took out like half the field, which we've seen, not in this category, but in iRacing on occasions. But good racing tonight. It was great calling it with you, Daniel, and I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, mate. No, it was good to dust the cobwebs off, get back into it again. But look, a big shout out must go, firstly to yourself for giving up your time, broadcasting this out to everyone here to watch and promote a great series. Secondly, Pagnum Imports for putting up the awesome prize of that GT frame. It's fantastic for those guys, and to all the guys participating, they've got still plenty of time to potentially win that and get a nice new bit of kit sitting at home under the Christmas tree. And Nick Heusler for putting on this series. He's done it for a few seasons now. It seems to be getting better and better each race and season. So, big shout out must go to all you guys.
Yeah, and looking at the week ahead on RRTV, it continues tomorrow night. Alex McCallum will be back with me in the Combox 8 p.m. GMT plus 10, and we'll be calling the third round of the world's fastest gamer qualifiers, the Australian-New Zealand split, and we'll also give you an update on who is leading that championship. So if you like your F1 action, join us then tomorrow night. We get a break on Sunday night, and but then the week starts again. Monday Night Lights comes back on Monday night, 9:15 p.m. Alex will be backing up with me once again. Then we'll have Wednesday night, the Wankel Australia-New Zealand Championship Wednesday night, and I'll have Luke Emerton in the Combox with me then. Thursday night, Thunder on Thursday night. That's the NASCAR trucks. Then, of course, next Friday we're back on the Australian Online Supercar Championships. So that's your wrap-up for this week as far as racing goes. And I guess next weekend is the big one. And that's the Bathurst 1000, the real Bathurst 1000. And I'm sure there'll be quite a few V8 Supercar drivers going up there next week. Sounds like Daniel's gone to sleep. Anyway, folks, I'd also like to thank everyone that joined us tonight. Without you, we wouldn't be doing this. Whether you joined us on iRacing Live or on our YouTube channel, we really appreciate your company. Hopefully you can join us again tomorrow night. But if you cannot, have a great weekend, and I look forward to having your company again in the not-too-distant future. Good night.